Wow.
Now, it wasn't until I got older I realized the reason why. Because my father was out there doing anything and everything that was running. And if she had told us what to look out for, we would have seen it in our father so much sooner.
Wow.
So I understand. Here I am at 69, and I am just trying to forgive my mother for all of the hurt she caused me because I wasn't what she needed. She needed a son to appease her mother-in-law. And I was the second daughter. My mother had 3 girls. So, right, you say, okay, the first one's a girl, the next one's going to be a boy. And when it didn't happen, she just hated me.
Well, do you think I want to drill down on that a little bit? Do you think that part of the reason why she didn't give, hey Toya, do you think that part of the reason why she didn't give y'all everything was because she might not have known how to address what was going on with your father? So often people tend to avoid things that they don't know how to deal with. So she might have thought, and I'm just asking, that she was maybe protecting you by not giving you something that she didn't have the answers to, because sometimes parents stay away from what they really don't know or don't know how to do.
Yeah, but she kept letting him come back in. He would go out and do his thing, and he'd come back and apologize, and she'd be like, oh, you know, and like, really?
But that would be part of the same thing I'm talking about, is that if she doesn't know how to deal with him, then you're seeing the outcome of that. So in her mind, do I expose my daughters to what I don't know? So often people will avoid even dealing with a problem because they don't know what to say or do, which then creates a whole other problem. You guys were seeing it, but in her mind, she might have thought that y'all weren't seeing it.
Because that's why I can't keep one, because I'm not going to put up with the BS.
I got you. I can't.
I was like, the minute I see BS, like, oh, you got to go.
I got you. Toya and Michelle, good evening tonight, guys. And actually, I think we got enough to go ahead and get started. Kim was just explaining what was going on with her mom and what we're going to talk about tonight. And I'm going to really lean on you guys to actually offer what you like, because we have parents. And that's what tonight's show is about, is listening to your children. And how do you deal with listening to your children? How do you have that conversation with your children? Simply because one of the things that Tiff and I wanted to discuss tonight is what those outcomes can be. So welcome to Unapologetically Keith, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9:30 to 10:30. We say 10:30, but we normally go much later. And every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Monday is a replay, but Wednesday and Friday we are live. And of course, on Friday, I have my lovely wife with us today. And so this is now the Zoom room where we're all going to be meeting to have our sessions. And so like anything else, I ask everybody put their mics on mute. And you can either raise your hand. If I miss it, just you can raise your hand inside the chat room, or leave a message in the chat to let me know that you have a question. I got you. Or there is a feature that you can just raise your hand down at the bottom and I will catch you if you click on participants, and you can just go ahead and raise your hand and I will see you and bring you on if you have something that you want to say, because I want to hear from everyone, and that actually allows the conversation to go smoothly. Now, I was joking with Tiff. I'm gonna start banning your folks laying down on your pillows and on your beds, because I went back and watched the replay of Wednesday. I was like the only one that didn't have a pillow, and Kim didn't have a pillow. Me and Kim was like the only two sitting there. At one point, a few of y'all was sitting up, and then like before the show was over, y'all was real comfortable. I was like, you know, I'm gonna bring me a pillow in here and lay on my desk. But no, but by all means, whatever you need, any adult beverage that you like, whatever's going to make you comfortable, because the one thing I do want to say, and I will reiterate it, this is a safe space. This is a space where you can be whoever you want to be, say whatever you want to say, simply because we're all adults, but we're all going to respect each other's position and each other's thoughts. And as we build as a family, the goal is to continue in that aspect, is to allow you guys to say whatever, do whatever, because the goal is to learn something. And I really did learn something the other day in listening to Kim because it gave me something that now I want to do when I work with men is to make sure, and I want to see, I just heard somebody come in, is to make sure that I address with men them being truthful. And I normally do that, but it is something that I'm going to drill down. Hey, Lisa, how we doing, love? Good to have you tonight. I'm really going to drill down on with men is the honesty part. I'm already about that, but I'm actually going to be very serious about it because I thought about something that Kim said, and it's very important. Kim said, I do what I do because I expect a man to be what he's supposed to be. And then when he's not, it is very devastating and it hurtful. And I thought of, because Tiff and I talk about this often, I can't go back and apologize to everybody that I hurt. I have done that. I've done it publicly. I've tried to contact as many people as I could. Hey, Dana. But you just can't go back, and you don't know the hurt that you've caused anybody and how they react to what you've done. So on my part, on my end, one of the things that I learned from Wednesday's show is to really attempt to, when working with the couples that I work with and the men that I work with and the women, is to try to prevent that pain and heal that pain. So that's what I got from Wednesday. And again, what I'll do is after the shows, when I repost them into the group, I'll save them on YouTube. I'll ask you guys to share anything that you might have got from the session before. So as people who miss it or find their way over, they'll know what that is. Okay, so let's get into tonight. Tonight, we're talking about listening to your children and the importance of listening to your children. Now, if you don't have children, fine, that's cool. I want you to still to consider what your interaction is when you're dealing with nieces, nephews, other family members' children, other co-workers' children, because children speak to us in many ways. They try to. They also don't know how to express everything that may be going on. And Kim was just explaining how at 69, she's still trying to work out situations with her mom, which means things that her mom wasn't able to do years ago is still affecting her now. And that's very important. So let me just introduce my co-host, my lovely wife, who is extremely comfortable. I'm going to ban her. Did she just jump off camera? I know she better come back on camera and stop playing. I know you didn't just turn your camera off. And you got to put what I want. You better.
I didn't.
What's
I
up?
didn't
Introduce
turn.
yourself.
Anyway, I
sit
didn't
up.
turn my camera off. I actually went to respond to a comment in the chat room.
Okay.
So it may
So
have
come on
looked
and
like I
introduce
turned my
yourself.
camera off.
Got
Everybody
you.
know who
Come
I
on
am.
and introduce yourself.
I'm the wife.
That's so professional. That's why my name's on the marquee. Okay, Anime, just sing the song
And
the way I asked you to sing
you
it.
know what KL said about that, right? KL does
What's
not
that?
like the fact that it is the Unapologetically Keith show. She told
Should be
him
okay.
that it should be the Unapologetically Keith and Tiffany show because
Yeah, it's all right. She'll be okay.
she said I'm the best part of the show.
Okay.
So
She'll be okay. She'll be okay. Uh-huh. She'll be quite okay. But so you want to tell the story of in terms of listening to and good evening. Let's see who came in. We got Lisa. Hey Tamari, how we doing? Tell the story of the situation with KL and the bad teacher. Our moment of not listening.
Well, before I get into that,
KL.
the reason why, and I like to discuss children being able to express themselves, and I actually posted a meme on my page about parents allowing their children to tell them when they're wrong, to tell them when you've hurt them, and being able to express that. A lot of parents um, have this thing that they shouldn't be corrected by their children, and I think that's absolutely wrong. And I like the fact that KL expresses herself because it sets me straight. It helps me be accountable as a mother. And sometimes you don't want to hear it. Sometimes you just want to tell them to shut up. But it helps me face reality that she is a little person. She does have feelings and she does have thoughts that she likes to express. And it's so funny because before we get into the situation with KL being hurt, um, tonight I came home and Keith told me, Keith told me that KL wanted to have a session with him. She listens to him with his clients, and she decided that she wanted to schedule a session with her
Oh, you're
father.
gonna make it. Come on, come on.
And I thought that it was so sweet that she wanted to take time to talk to him. And he actually conducted their session just like he would have with the clients. And it was so funny because he asked her, because he gives his clients an opportunity to either have the session without their parents or with their parents. So he gave her the same option. And she said, well, I want mommy there because I need some support. Now, mind you, she only 6 years old. So it's funny to listen to her express that. But she basically wanted to discuss her behavior and what she could do in order to improve her behavior and also improve our reaction to her behavior because she wasn't as happy with how we express ourselves about her. And I think it's so important. Like, I hear parents dismiss their children and dismiss how their children feel. But even just listening to her tonight, it made me realize that when you do that, it crushes them. It crushes their spirit. It does something to them. And when we were finished, when Kaya, I let her do her and Daddy do the talking. But when we were finished, you could tell that she was so relieved, and she felt good about being able to have that therapy with her father. And it's funny because she talked about us as if we weren't there. She said, my parents, my father, my mother. And it wasn't, well, daddy you or mommy you. She actually conducted the whole session as if she was talking to a therapist. And I thought that was such a great moment for her. It was really deep. I'm sorry for getting emotional. Is my husband there? He must have froze. Anyway, I wanted to he wanted me to
No,
discuss as
I'm here.
far
I'm
as
here now. Go ahead.
oh you here there? Okay. Um I wanted to mention also the reason why I feel it's important to allow children to express themselves because I think um all of us, especially women, we either have experienced it ourselves or we know someone who has experienced being molested. And I think when we shut children down, it puts them in a position that they can't defend themselves. And people take advantage of that. If you're a parent that doesn't listen to your children, people take advantage of that because children automatically think the adult is always right. And the adult is not always right. So it opens them up to people mistreating them, people abusing them. And we had a situation actually 2 years ago where, and I shared it on Facebook, that KL kept talking about a mean teacher. And KL never called anybody mean. She gets along with everyone. I mean, everyone. If she doesn't like you, then that means something's wrong with you. And she refers to the mean teacher, asked her, well, what's the teacher's name? She didn't know. So that was unusual too because KL knew all the teachers' names. And I said, okay, well, why is she mean? And then she started to explain that the teacher makes her sit on the wall and she can't play because she misbehaved. I said, well, the other teachers have done the same thing. If you can't play, it's because you did something that you weren't supposed to do. And she said, yeah, but I just don't like the way this teacher talks to me. She's mean and nobody likes her. So I listen, and I'm not one of those parents that immediately jump into, well, I'm going to go protect my baby because you better not be mean to her. Because I also understand from a teacher's perspective, having a husband that taught for 20 years, having a mother that taught for 20 years, that sometimes children misunderstand. So I said, I'll see how things go. So I actually got a chance to talk with the teacher. She explained to me that KL had been misbehaving, and KL acknowledged that she was misbehaving. And
Because she was
time went
missing the
on.
teacher that they transferred her from. She was missing the teacher
Right,
that transferred her from when they made the switch. The teacher she really liked,
right,
she got out of her class, and that's one of the reasons why was contributing to the behavior as well.
right, and that too. And I thought, KL just needs to adjust to having a new teacher. Um, so more time progressed, and KL just she would always talk about the mean teacher, the mean teacher. She never knew the mean teacher's name. And um, finally, it got to the point that the teacher spoke to me one day. KO had been misbehaving, and we discussed it. And then when the teacher walked away, KO whispered to me, "Mommy, I don't like that teacher." And the way she did it, it just sent something through me. I said, she's said this too many times now, and she has never spoke about anybody like that before. This was the first and really the only time she has ever said that she didn't like someone. So I said, you know what? Do you want to talk to and I can't remember her name now, but she was the director of the daycare. And I said, do you want to talk to her and let her know what you feel? And she said yes. So I said, okay. We went to the director and I said, listen, Kale has something she wants to talk to you about. And I allow Kale to talk because if you ever seen her videos, she knows how to express herself. She does it very well. And the reason why I did it is because I didn't want it to be where people we got back KL's mom said. I wanted it to be KL said because I didn't want them to get it third party. You got it directly from her. It came from her lips, not my interpretation of what she said, but what KL actually said. So when she sat down with the director and she began to tell her, I don't like the mean teacher. She said nobody likes her. We want her out of the class. She said we want her removed from the class because everyone is scared of her. So then when Kale said everyone is scared of her, then I realized that there are probably other children that's being affected just like she is. So the director actually acknowledged, she said, I know who she's talking about. And I'm actually this week, we're going to be in her classroom observing her. And I said, okay, so that means that somebody else probably made a complaint.
Let me jump in real quick, Tiff. That's
Hmm.
also I went to the school, and I didn't go as a parent. I went as a professional, and so I dropped KL off every morning. And so when I dropped KL off, I said, you know what, I'm gonna hang out and I'm gonna look to ask the teachers the time I can come by to have a conversation with a professional to professional, because maybe there's something I can offer that can help her with my child as well as any of the children. So when I had dropped off, I came back about 15 minutes. I had to go to my car and get the phone. When I came back, I noticed that she's sitting in the classroom with her back to 3 and 4 year olds, and she's on her phone. And I'm like, wait a minute. Now I know now I'm in professional mode. You have your back to 3 and 4 year old children when a toy or anything else could go in a mouth so quickly and a child is choking and you have no idea what happened. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And so I stood at the door for a hot second. I said, let me see how long it takes you to turn around and acknowledge me, because that's how long because I don't know how long you've been here with the kids. So eventually she turned around and she kind of jumped. And I said, I came back to speak to you. And she came over to the door. And I said, I just wanted to make myself available to you. I said, I've spent some time in the classroom. I said, I also help teachers. One of my skills is to teach teachers how to teach. And if I can help you with some classroom management things or anything like that, I would love to be able to sit with you as a professional, because I know you've been having some problems with my daughter, and maybe I can help out with anything else that's going on with some of the kids here. Now, my hope was I just caught you on your phone. The least you could do is say, maybe, we can sit down and something. She was like, no, I'm fine. I said, okay, yeah. So at that point, I did exactly what most parents do. I snitched. So I go to the director and I said, "May I ask you a question?" I said, "Do you have a no phone policy in the classroom?" She said, "Of course." I said, "Then why is your teacher in KL's room on her phone?" And she had her back to the door. And she said, "Really?" And I seen her write it down. So I know the next morning I got like the look of death. Like if I could kill your big ass, I'd do it right now. But I was like, I could care less. You're putting other people's children at harm. And that's when I had explained to Tiff that, something's just not right here. But again, we kind of missed a lot of the red flags. Go ahead, baby.
So, yeah. So basically, the director said we're going to observe her this week. I said, okay, that makes me feel better that you're going to see what the situation is. But everyone knows when you have somebody in a classroom watching you, you're going to be on your best behavior. So, how much she was going to see at that point, who knew? Um, so a little bit more time passed, and the
Believe it, hold on, let me
week
just jump in. Believe it or not, the kids give it away. Because what happens is if you have not been doing anything and it's what blows teachers who are inept out the water. Why are you asking us to do this? You don't never tell us to take out our notebooks, or we don't never. And a good observer will know because
exactly,
they'll watch the
Toya.
kids. If it doesn't feel natural, like the supervisor
Exactly.
walks in and kids see you acting, the kids know, and the kids actually pick up on it. And if they're urban kids,
Hmm.
oh, you only acted that way because the principal.
Yep.
So
That's what
trust
Toya
me,
said.
that's why you do. That's why you do the observations. So go ahead, baby.
So, so and the funny thing is the way things transpired, I will never forget. I came up to the school one day and it was a parent there and she was angry about something. I don't know, I didn't know what the situation was. And she told and I keep almost wanting to call the director's name, but she told the director, I want to speak with you and a teacher.
Miss
And they,
Evie.
Evie,
Miss Evie.
yes. So Miss Evie. So as I went to go get KL, I saw them in the classroom talking, and I knew the parent was upset. I couldn't hear what they were talking about. Picked up
She was hot.
KL. We left. So the very next day, I came to pick KL up after work, and it was a police car outside the daycare. And I'm thinking, oh Lord, why is a police car outside the daycare? So I go inside, and it's that same parent with Miss Evie and the same teacher. Still have no idea what happened, what went wrong, whatever. So it was the following day that I went to pick Kayla up early because she had a doctor's appointment. So I drove KL and she told me she had a scratch on her arm. And I said, okay, I'll look at it when I get to the doctor's office because I was already driving. I said, how did you get a scratch on your arm? And she said, Miss Beth scratched me. And I said, okay. We get to the doctor's office and it's not any regular scratch. It is three deep with skin broken scratches on her arm. It looked like someone had dug their nails
Exactly, Toya.
to
Exactly.
KL's arm. So I'm looking at this like, okay, so um, we were talking to the doctor. The doctor looked at it. She said, yeah, it looked like somebody dug their nails into her arm.
Actually, no,
Um,
what happened was, hold on, babe. You called me after you left the doctor's appointment and you
yeah.
said, Keith, they found marks on her arm. And I said, go back inside and ask the doctor, are those marks consistent with someone grabbing her arm? So the doctor would have to document that you asked that question.
Hmm.
And then when you went back inside, the doctor said, yes, they're
Yes.
consistent with someone having grabbed her arm. And then I said to you, well, meet me at the school and I will meet you there in a couple of minutes. Just go back to the school and I'll meet you there. And then we'll go ahead and have that discussion with the director.
So on my way driving back to the school, I asked KL to tell me what happened. So she explained to me, and she explained, she till this day, it's 2 years later, and she will tell the same exact story and never change it. And she explained to me that she had got in trouble and she had to sit on a bench while they were outside for recess. And one of her friends came by and they were about to hug. And when she was about to hug her friend, the teacher grabbed her arm and basically pushed her back into onto the bench to make her sit down. And I said, "Did it hurt at the time that she grabbed you?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Did you cry?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Did you tell her that she had hurt you?" She said, "No, because I was afraid she was going to hurt me again." So at that point, I'm like, and I asked specific questions like, well, were you running? Because I wanted to give the teacher the benefit of the doubt coming from a family of teachers. So I said, were you running? Because I could understand if you were running and she went to grab you, then maybe the force of her pulling you would have, caused her nails to possibly scratch you, although it did look like someone dug their fingers into her hand, her arm. But that wasn't the case. She said, "No, I wasn't running." She said, "I stood up and I went to hug my friend, and she grabbed my arm and put me back in the seat." So at
And it
that
happened to be
point,
in one place where there is no cameras.
exactly.
But there's cameras all over the school. And I found it interesting that the one place that the graphic description of her getting grabbed is in the one place where there is no cameras to actually watch the kids because it's outside or whatever the excuse that they gave. So I found
And it was
that very
also, and
interesting as well.
remember, honey, it was also because once this happened, Keith started looking up the information. And of course, you could look up all the information of any incidents that were reported. And there was a little boy who had his arm dislocated. And I actually found out the story later on from another teacher that really, really liked KL. And that little boy also had his arm dislocated by a teacher, but it was also off camera in the same area.
Which we
So,
believe it's the same teacher because all of this happened. There was three other kids who had physical altercations, with one being sent to the hospital because you could go look at it on the state site. And all of it seemed to happen around the same time when this teacher came to work at the school, because the incidents were all kind of impacted in like a 5 or 6 month period around that same time when that teacher came to be at the school.
so now we get to the daycare, and I already know what mode I'm in. So I can't I can't be as diplomatic and professional as Keith is because I'm from Brooklyn. I'm from Howard Houses in Brooklyn. So I said, I'm gonna let Keith handle it. And at the time, Keith was an investigator for the state. So he was talking to the director, and he did explain to the director that he was an investigator for the state and that he was going to report what happened. And she said, "Well, we're going to report it too." And then at that point, Keith, just had the discussion, and we showed her the marks on her arm. I took pictures of it. I still have pictures of it on my phone. And of course, they said that they would take care of it, and they actually terminated her that day. Of course, she said that she didn't do it. And I said, well, she didn't say that somebody else scratched her. She didn't say somebody else grabbed her. She said that teacher did it. And that story has never changed. The problem is, it didn't end there. It didn't end with the teacher being let go and then we all lived happily ever after. Within 3 weeks of her being scratched, KL's behavior became unrecognizable. She was now being physically violent with, and only with the teachers. She did not fight her friends or anyone her age. She was only violent with the teachers, and it was uncharacteristic because even the teacher that she really liked, and this is a teacher that we're friends with now. This is a teacher that we bowl with, that comes to my house and brings KO gifts all the time. She was even fighting her. She was cursing. She was destroying property. She was kicking. She was like a totally different child. And I had to get called up to the daycare a few times to come get her because they just could not control her. And finally, it culminated to, okay, we have to expel her. It was less than 3 weeks from the time that she was assaulted, because that's what happened, to her being expelled was less than 3 weeks. And now we don't have a daycare. Um, I stayed home with her for a week. We were trying to find some place to put her, and it was close to the summertime, so we started looking into day camps, and we said, okay, great, we can send her to a camp. But at the same time, we tried to send her one place, it did not work. She was exhibiting the same behavior.
One day,
And yeah,
one
one
day.
day, and they
Yeah.
were like, okay, her behavior, we can't keep her here.
That
So
was a
at
church
this point,
daycare. It was like no
yeah.
Christian love. They like, come get her. Homeboy said, we ain't got the resources for this. I was like, but this the church daycare. Y'all resources. My man was like, nah, we can't deal with this. I was like, damn.
So at this point, we went to another daycare, and she was only there for 2 weeks. And again, it was the same thing.
As soon as
Um,
they heard that she had got a teacher, like as soon as they knew, I think as soon as they found out that a teacher had gotten fired handling her, they
right.
handled her differently, which then caused her to be uneasy. So it was more like
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks because they were like, well, we're going to see, we'll give it a test run. And then sure enough, at about the third week, Tiff had already told me
Mm-hmm.
she was a little uneasy with the teacher because the teacher was older. And sure enough, after like the third week,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, okay, this is not going to work. So now we 3 daycares down, nowhere to send her. And we're like, we're stuck because it's like, what do we do? And Tiff now has to take off from work because we don't
Actually,
have nobody to
I
watch the
had to take
child.
an unpaid leave because I had just started a new job. So I had to take an
Mm-hmm.
unpaid leave, and that lasted for 3 months that I
Yeah, we
wasn't
went
working.
from the end of the whole summer to early September. And then a cousin of mine who's a principal over in Jersey said there's some people that he go to church with that has a home daycare. And Tiff was always adverse to home daycare because she didn't like the idea of bringing your child into somebody's home because anything could happen. But at this point, it was either that or Tiff loses her job completely because even though they gave it a leave of absence, it was like, how long can we extend this? Now, the good thing was that as a new employee, Tiff had been rocking out and they really liked her. But at the same time, there's only but how long a job will allow you to be off from work or whatever. So when we went to go meet with the new lady, Tiff was like, how much do we tell her? I was like, tell her everything. Whatever it's going to be, it's going to be at this point. And when we explained to the husband and wife what the situation was, and I explained to him again as a professional, not as a father, I said, whatever's going on happens around nap time. Whatever this teacher was doing was when the kids were supposed to be laying down. And I came up during one of the nap times and noticed that the kids are all over. And I'm like, the hell kind of nap time is this when ain't nobody really laying on their mats? They're all over the place. And it's because she had no control. So the woman was like, I tell you what, let's give it a little trial run. And me and Tiff was like, oh, the dreaded trial run. We know how this works. But the woman said, I will definitely see how this works and we'll go from there. And, I think after the first couple of days, she said, yeah, I see she acts up during the nap time. And so automatically when I heard that, I was like, oh, here we go. But she's like, no, but she's like, your daughter's quite intelligent and she's quite helpful. She wants to help my husband and I out, do everything. And that was more of what we were used to. And then the husband said, because he's a professor and these are two retired military. So I think this worked also. They already
And they were
have
both
the
teachers.
retired background and they were both educators. So to be military and education, that's a hell of a combination. So discipline is something that they were strong with. And he said, you know what? She's one of the smartest young ladies I've ever dealt with. He said, I sit and hold whole conversations with her. And then they was like, okay, we're going to go ahead and keep her. And that became the bridge to allow her to get back to being in a regular daycare. She was happy again. She felt safe. Also, this woman watched her own children, her grandchildren who were there as part of the daycare, and KL would help there and whatever. And that became the bridge to save everything to allow Tiff to go back to work. But we learned a very valuable lesson when it came to listening to your children. I think for Tiff, it was hard, of course, being a mom and being a new mom, and then seeing your child become somebody totally different. For me, I'm used to seeing this because, of course, dealing with kids in school, but it's totally different when it's your own child, of course. The hardest thing that I had to deal with, and I think the most emotional thing for me, and I'm not going to start crying because I'm tougher than that. No, but
You're right.
was that I said to Kay, stop rooting for it, Kim. Was that I was sitting on the bed with KL and Tiff was in the room crying, and I'm going to put KL to bed, and I'm sad, and I'm trying to hold it together to put her in the bed. Tiff is in one room crying. KL is kind of stoic. She's not really showing a whole lot of emotion. And she said, "What's the matter, Daddy?" I said, "I just want my little girl back." And she said, "Well, she's not coming back, Daddy." I was like, "Oh." I was like, "Really?" She said, "No." She's like, "I'm not that little girl no more." I was like, "Damn." And so, I let her lay down. And then I had to really think about that. So Tiff goes to sleep, KL sleep, and I'm always up late anyway. And I had to think about it. And this is where faith comes in too, guys, is that I never prayed for God to say, take this away, change this, whatever. I asked God, what is it that you want me to learn from this? What is it that you want me to learn from this situation right here? Because whatever this was going to be, Tiff and I was going to have to become something different. And for the first 2 years down here in Delaware, we would have told you everything was perfect because it was. Everything was as perfect as the move could go, from the move itself to finding the place that we moved into, to finding the daycare, which was a 5-star daycare at the time that we put her there. 2 years, no problems whatsoever. And in an instant, all that changed. And all of a sudden, we're in a position where we're maybe through 2 weeks from being homeless, because I was stretching out how late I could pay the rent, because I must have blew through about $30,000 or $40,000 covering what Tiff wasn't bringing in, because Tiff wasn't working. So the money that I had taken off my pension to put in place to hold us down while I was in grad school was just blazing through it. You also learn how social media is a wonderful thing until you ask for some help. Social media is a wonderful thing until you ask for some money. And all of a sudden, folks is like, Keith who? KL who? Author who? And so it's like, okay. And so you learn very quickly. And then also, but the beautiful thing that you learn is that you learn how many people that you actually are connected to and affect, who may never say a word, but watch and see everything that you do, and who will send you help without saying anything. And I happened to, at the time as an investigator, was in the office, and they hear me on the phone talking to Tiff, because I would have to leave, and where my office was about 45 minutes, almost an hour away, and I had to keep leaving work to come get KL. And because I had the luxury of being able to leave and work outside the office, I was able to do that without getting in any trouble. Well, both of the ladies that I work with donated, it was 72, it was something like 75 hours
Mm-hmm.
from their bank to me. And I get this report that it says you've had 75 hours. And that was like the 2 weeks before like our rent was due. And I'm thinking, where the hell did this come from? And then they tell you who it came from. And I was like, so y'all just wasn't going to say nothing to me? I said, and I had only been working with them 6 months. I said, what's this? And she said, both of them said to me, Keith, you always come in and share with us about God, and you've helped us, and you talk to us about, the faith and things like that. And we listen to you on the phone with the different people that you help, whatever. And she said, we knew you would have never asked us for help. And that 75 hours was at what I was making, which I was making almost $20,000. I was making about $20,000 more than Tiff was. So that's 75 hours at my pay scale, which turned out to be well over
So when they
2
converted,
weeks worth of pay. Yeah, when they
right.
converted it, it comes out to like 2.5 weeks of pay at my level, which came out to be almost a month at Tiff's level, which allowed us to pay the rent and then have money going forward, which it literally dropped right into now Tiff going back to work when she started getting paid, whatever. And so you realize what comes from it. But the point of the matter with everything that we're talking about tonight is children, when you see a change in the child's behavior, but just in general, when your child comes and tells you something, stop and listen to it, and really challenge yourself. Where's that coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's not their norm. Very important if it's not their norm.
And
And even if
I want
even
to
if it's, yeah,
I want to say also is that Keith and I were very realistic as parents. We didn't say, "Oh, our child is perfect," because she could be a pain in the behind. We weren't thinking like we volunteered to have her analyzed by her pediatrician to make
Yeah.
sure that she didn't have attention deficit, that she didn't like
Yeah,
something
we took it
wasn't
to a specialist. We took it
right.
to a
And
specialist, actually a counselor. Yeah.
right, her pediatrician, she actually watched her for a good while, for about an hour. And she said, I don't think there's anything wrong with her. She said, I think that her behavior was a reaction because she was young. That was the only way she knew how to express herself. She was angry. She had been hurt. So that she don't know how to say, um, this is bothering me. So that's how she was expressing it, because again she was only fighting the adults. So she then referred us to a therapist, and Kale loved the therapist. She could paint, she could draw and everything. And I would actually leave the room and she would talk with the therapist, and the therapist said the same thing. She said it's nothing psychologically wrong with her. It's just that she went through a tough period, and it's just it needs time to resolve itself. And then
And she's only
thankfully
four and
it
a half,
did.
so she's
Right.
yeah, and she's only
she was
four and a
she
half
was
too.
only 4 years old. So thankfully it did resolve itself a lot. I will tell you that KL still has the emotional scars, because even when she started kindergarten, her concern.
I'll take it from there. Was she her concern was, are the teachers going to be nice to me? When we first had her tested, she came in, she was bubbling, and they test you for the higher level learning because they have a Spanish program, immersion program, and they have a Chinese immersion program. And we knew that KL was gifted, or at least we thought, just like most parents think their child is gifted. So when Tiff took her to be evaluated, um, she evaluated her and she came back and was like, yeah, she can be in the Chinese program. She's on that level. And everything went fine. They said, she'll start in the Chinese immersion program. It's a special program here in Delaware where the child stays in the program for the 12 years that they're in school learning the Chinese language. And she said, other than behavior, there's no reason why she would come out of the program. And then about 2 weeks before school started, we're getting everything together now, and I had told Tiff from the beginning, she'll be okay once she's in a structured environment like school. Daycare is not a structured environment like school. Daycare is daycare. In a structured environment, it's different because everybody is more professional, simply because there's licensing and there's a lot of things that go on. And a lot of things that go on at daycare cannot go on in a regular school setting. And I said, once she's in that environment, I honestly believe that she'll be okay. But of course, Tiff is a new mother. It's like, I hear you talking, but I know what I see. And I got that. But yes, 2 weeks before she's supposed to start school, her main concern was, well, most kids is like, are the kids going to like me and all that? She's like, are the teachers going to be nice to me? And so, and that's her thing. And that was actually the first time she had ever had an adult treat her badly. So she didn't know how to process it, because KL was the type that runs up the dogs, runs up to whoever. She's the mayor. She like, and my concern was always, I don't want to quell that, but I also don't want her constantly running up to strangers and wanting to talk, because that's not how we do. I actually showed her a video of kids being abducted, and her face was like in shock. She was like, so people grabbed those kids? I said, yeah, they never coming home. And she was literally in shock. And I said, so when daddy tells you don't do X, Y, and Z, this is why. And I just felt she was old enough to be able to process what she was seeing. So not every kid was abducted, but many of them were. And I honestly believe, as an educator, one, know your child, of course, but I think we don't give children enough information because we're worried because of how we feel. But I actually believe that children process it better if you lay it out the right way. I think if you lay it out flat and give the child a chance to absorb it, they will, as long as they can feel comfortable in learning from you. So once she started the program, honestly, the hardest part was, we believe that her Chinese teacher kind of looked at kids of color a certain way. So we were like, but, and then they were kind of like, well, she's all over the place. She wants to go speak to this person. doesn't really follow directions. And I was like, is she not following directions or is she just rambunctious? There's two different things that you're saying here. But they both kept saying she's super smart. So I was like, okay, we got to figure out this behavior because we really worked hard to get her into this program. And then sure enough, she kind of fell into place. We had a meeting. We came up to the school. We sat down. We met. And both teachers said the same thing. KL is incredibly smart. She's just all over the place. And I was like, oh, okay.
And
So I
it's
was like, we're
not
going to
that
have a
she. The funny
conversation.
thing is, it's not that she's all over the place. KL is very social. She also
Yeah.
was way ahead of the other kids.
Yeah, she
So
was.
when you had kids that were still trying to recognize letters, KL was already doing math problems. So she got bored easily. So they had to figure out a way to keep her engaged. And once they realized how to keep her engaged, then it got better. She got much better toward the end of the year, but it was a matter of, okay, and KL will tell you, and it's funny because her teacher even said, her Mandarin teacher, he said that KL would be like, oh my gosh, you don't know that? Like, because she was used to be, doing stuff at home, and she knows that already. She's learned that already. So, and she was kind of rough when it came to the other kids. So
And
once
she's
they
taller,
realized,
so she's physically bigger than most kids too.
right, she was practically the tallest kid in the class. So once they realized that, okay, we need to do stuff so she's not bored, by the end of the year, her behavior improved tremendously, tremendously.
But actually, by the end of the year, February, going into end of January, going into February, and then sure enough, she was on a run going into March before COVID closed down the schools.
Exactly.
She
Mm-hmm.
she had like a whole ridiculous turnaround where everything was just different because she had figured out that she does better when she does what she's supposed to do. And all of a sudden she started getting these, and purple is at the highest level. And all of a sudden she just started killing it. And then of course, COVID just put a whole wrinkle into everything. But again, it goes back to her just figuring it out. And so what I want to open it up to you guys tonight is like, what have been your experiences with listening to your own children or as a child with your own parents? Kim had started to share with some of us, or like, what are some of the things? Let me just, okay, there we go. Let me, what has been your experience with that type of situation? I want to see if I can see the hands, or if you can raise your hands in the what's name, I got you, depending. What has been, go ahead, Tamari. Let me hear from you, darling. Go right ahead.
Okay. I'm gonna try not to
That's
cry.
your hand, Lisa. I got you.
I was molested. Well, I was molested when I was 5.
Okay.
I never felt comfortable telling my mother. I didn't
Gotcha.
feel. I never felt comfortable. My mother had me when she was 19, so you know, my dad was the militant in the family, being physically abused by him. And this competition between the love between my mother with my father, talking about who's going to be the first one out the house at 7 years old. I never felt comfortable telling my parents because I didn't think they were ever going to believe me.
Was it a family member or somebody that you knew?
Yeah, it was my mother's cousin's husband.
Okay. Gotcha.
She went to Puerto Rico on a trip, and he took me downstairs in the basement.
Oh my God. Gotcha.
So my father always felt like I was gonna be promiscuous since I was very, very young. I don't know how the hell you tell that with a 5-year-old, but my mother says this story saying that a nun told her by the time I was said to her when I was 5 years old that by the time I was 13, I was gonna have a baby and be pregnant because I was promiscuous, not knowing that I had got molested at 5 years old. Okay. So when I told my mother, I end up, you know how Keith, when women go through child marriage or kids, they block it out. They put that in a file. I didn't find this out until I was in therapy. Until when I was 28 years old in therapy is when it all came out.
Gotcha.
I had blocked it out. Yeah, I had blocked it out, and I was sitting there in a crying profusely talking to my therapist, and it came out. you know, and the statutory limitations or whatever was 15 years. I didn't want him to, you know, when I went to him, the cousin, you know, my mother's cousin tried to deny it, saying I was making it up, what took so long, you know, all that stuff. So it's difficult for children, especially when you come from a, you know, an upbringing where there's no love and there's no affection and there's that physical trauma.
Yeah.
To go to tell your parents because you just feel like no one's gonna listen to you.
And you don't have the skills. You're 5. You don't have the skills. And if the parents don't open the doorway for you to be able to have that conversation with no retaliation, then children are going to do exactly what happened to you. They're going to shut it off. They're going to close it off. And yes, the brain literally puts up a partition to traumatic situations and pushes it quickly to the back. And a lot of people go through what you went through. They literally have this memory, and until it's triggered, sometimes an outside thing or therapy, when it comes out, then all of a sudden it's here comes an emotion. But one of the things that you said, that if they were paying attention, if your behavior made them believe, oh, she's going to be promiscuous, what should have triggered was why? Why is she acting like this at 5? And if there's no influences inside the home, like, okay, I see a sister who's walking around half naked, or I see my mom who's walking around half naked, well, then there's something triggering that behavior, because hypersexuality is an offshoot of abuse, myself included. I was molested, and instead of being homosexual because I was molested by a male cousin, I turned out to be a super hoe, because I'm going out here to try to prove to the world I'm not gay, never realizing that I was touched inappropriately at 7. So in my mind, because it had been drummed into my family, man ain't no homo, man ain't no homo. You know, I heard this so much that I was going to go out here and try to get with every woman possible to show I ain't no homo. So after a while, you don't realize it until one day you're sitting back, you go, damn, was I touched? And now you start to replay those memories. So when you say that, you actually were giving signs that somebody could have stepped in to help you. I got you, Kim. I'm going to go to Lisa in a second. You were giving signs, except parents didn't know how to open that up. And that's the thing why Tiff and I wanted to have this conversation tonight, was listening to your children, but it's also listening or watching their body language, knowing your child. So when you see something or ask something, if your child, like, I know when Kayla's been watching something on YouTube, she shouldn't, because I can listen to her vernacular. We don't talk like that. Where'd that come from? And I'll say, did you watch that on YouTube? Yeah, turn it off. So now she knows she can't turn on YouTube unless one of us is around to watch what she's watching. And that started early, because I would literally listen to her when I'm in another part of the kitchen. And I go, what is that you're watching? What is that you're listening to? And because I closed certain doors off and then left other doors open, now we can have that conversation. That's where parents make the mistake. So first, I want to say I'm sorry to hear what happened to you, but I'm also glad that you were able to get that out and have that conversation, because it's important. And I think something else that you said, which is very important, you went back to say something, even if the other person doesn't want to acknowledge it, even if the person tells you that you're lying, the fact that you went to go say something is better for you. Because I don't know how many people that I've worked with in victim type situations where just being able to speak to the person, it didn't matter getting forgiveness, is let me just tell you what you did. Now I can actually lay blame to it, and then I'm good, because now you can purge that out. Because if not, it becomes a driving force, the negative inside you. So I'm actually glad that you shared that. And again, I appreciate the fact that you shared that with us, because you didn't have to. So I definitely appreciate that. Lisa, come on.
Yes. It's weird about listening, because what happens is when you actually gain your child's trust, they share with you things that their friends even go through.
Of course.
And
oh yeah,
I was a little slow at first when I realized, you know, little kids always ask you, oh, I want a brother, I want a sister. And Kirsten did it on average every week up until about the 4th grade. And then she just stopped. And so one day I said to her, I said, Kirsten, what, you gave up on having brothers and sisters? You don't talk about it anymore. She goes, oh no, having brothers is mean. I said, why is having brothers mean? And she said, my friend Chichi, who was African, her older brothers are very mean to her.
Wow.
And I said, I don't know what you mean. What do you mean they're mean to her? And that was the only way she could describe it, was they're mean to her. And so one weekend she wanted to spend the night. I'm like, oh, hell no, you can't spend the night over there because I don't know what's going on. And
yeah,
she's like, no, Chi-Chi's going to come and spend the night here. And I don't know if anybody knows African households. They don't do that. But
no,
her mother said to me, if I was comfortable with having her stay, she would bring whatever I wanted her to have, and she could stay Saturday and Sunday, and I could bring her back to school when she comes on Monday. I'm like, okay, something's definitely wrong. Something's going on, but I'm not paying attention. And then Sunday, she's already been there one day, and I guess they felt comfortable. They come to me, and Chi-Chi shows me she literally has gashes down her thigh from her knee to her private area. And
wow.
it's because whenever she doesn't do whatever her brothers want her to do, they either cut her or burn her.
Oh.
Wow.
And she had been dealing with this for a long time. And the only person she felt like she could tell was Kirsten. And Kirsten told her she could trust me. She could tell me. And so I'm on the verge of tears just thinking about it again. I said, how do I tell this African family? Because they have certain customs that we don't have. They don't do things the way that we do. And I'm divorced. So I'm, in their eyes, a single mom. So I was already shocked that they let her stay with me. But then I'm going to come back and say this. They're going to say, oh, you did that, is what I'm thinking in my head.
Or so, you're lying.
Yeah, or that I'm lying, that she got this some other way. So I suggested to Chi-Chi that, why don't you have your mother come here tonight and we'll all have dinner together and you can talk to her mother, you know, while we're here, all of us. And she was very uncomfortable with it. But Kirsten, after Chi-Chi went into the other room, she says, Mom, I think her mother might know. She just wants to be taken care of. And I really had no clue. So I did the only thing that my heart could tell me to do, was I went to the principal and told the principal and let him get involved. And that led to a whole social services thing and a whole bunch of other stuff. But right now, and I praise God every day, Chi-Chi's in medical school and she is fine. So everything that happened, as painful as it was, Kirsten and Chi-Chi are still the best of friends. And all I can say is, I thank God my child trusted me with this information, because suppose Chi-Chi never told anybody, who knows what the state could be, or worse.
And what other child could get hurt?
Kirsten tried to help and told somebody, and they did something to her. You know, I was devastated by the whole thing, but I'm so grateful now. And it really helps if your child can trust you.
I'm glad you shared that, because you said something that's very important, is that we need some third-party information that allows us to do something simply because we're who we are to who we're dealing with. And I can tell you for a fact that many a child has come to me and said, Mr. B, can I talk to you? And it is because of how I allowed the classroom to be comfortable. Tip has been with me too. When students have come to me, and I've dealt with rapes, I've dealt with molestation, I've dealt with murders, Tip was with me when we had to go get a video of a young lady who was being molested by older guys, and I had to go out on the streets and hit my connects up and be like, I know y'all got the video, but I need you to send it to me because I got to get this in the hands of the police. And they were like, come on, B, you want us to snitch? I said, come on, you know who I am. You know what I do. Your name will never come up, but we can't have this little girl out here. She was 15, and there was 3 18-year-old boys who basically were doing what they wanted, put it on video, and then put it out to the neighborhood. And what I found is that at least when we do that for our own children or other children, that bridge, I'm gonna tell you, as you was explaining the story, I believe that the mother knew, because certain cultures, the women are powerless to say anything to the abuse that they may witness and may have already experienced themselves. So often it's a sick rite of passage in some homes. And so we may look at that and go, oh my God, how could that be? But when I tell you the number, and I know some of y'all already know it, when you think of how many families know that the older man is messing with somebody's child who's underage, when you hear, I got married at 13, I got married at 11, or we've been together since I was 11, and I start doing the math and go, well, wait a minute, he's 10, 13 years older than you. So if he was 11, he was 24. And folks know, and then the number of mothers, because of their own abuse. And that's what I had asked Kim earlier. I'm gonna get you in a second, Kim. That's why I'd asked Kim earlier, her mother's actions, sometimes it may be because they just don't know what to do, one, or they're reacting off of their own emotions or their own feelings about a similar situation, so they don't know what to do. Tiff and I talk about it often with her mom. The things that her mom did is a reaction to things that went on with her. And when we got to see it with her own mother, Tiff's grandmother, you could see it clearly, and they would kind of just shove Tiff in the middle of it. And one of the first things I had to do when we got married was like, okay, no, you get behind me. That foolishness is staying there. We're not dealing with that, because you could see the septic behavior between grandmother and mother, and they were pouring it into Tiff, or trying to, and Tiff is doing her best to deflect it, but you could see it was pressing on her emotionally, because this is still moms and grandma. So actually, I'm so glad you guys are sharing it. Go ahead, Kim. I'm sorry, baby.
Okay. The problem is that this is for Tamari and anybody else that it has happened to. It was like, for them to say they recognized that you were going to be promiscuous was because somewhere inside they knew somebody was grooming you before the molestation happened. Yeah, otherwise they wouldn't have been able to. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Somebody recognized it but didn't say anything to protect you,
or expected it because they already knew how things got down.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna tell you something crazy. Because my mother never taught us anything, I was 16 years old when my older sister molested me. And because she was the princess and could do nothing wrong, I believe, well, I never told anybody, but I think my mother, because my mother passed away like a month and a half after my 50th birthday.
Okay.
I believe that when she left, she must have gotten a gift from God, because she came back to me and bothered me for a year and a half after she had already passed. And it was kind of like, it was like a touching. And I did not want to hear it. And this was at 50. And I told her if she wasn't going to tell me where the money was, to leave me the F alone. Because only because I offered to buy her house for $90,000. She told me she was going to sell it and make a lot of money. She ended up selling it for $65,000. She gave my older sister $5,000, and she took the other $60,000 and moved down to Maryland and bought a house with my kid sister. So it was like she didn't give me anything. Not that I was, not that I'm expecting it, but that's how our relationship was. But I think she came back to me asking for forgiveness, and I didn't want to hear it. And we used to go and we used to hang out at each other's houses. And my fear was every time we spent the night at my sister's house, I would sleep on the edge of the bed praying that this woman would not touch me. Now, this happened when 15, 16. And up until I no longer stayed at her house, And because you can't sleep. You're sleeping on the edge of the, first of all, you tuck the covers and you're sleeping on the edge because you're afraid you don't want to feel that tug because then you got to fight.
Yeah.
And that's why my older sister and I, we don't speak. I can't. I can't.
I understand.
And through the childhood,
I'm glad you shared it.
I was always the liar. They had already set it up in the whole family that no matter what I said, it was a lie. So you can't tell anybody because they're not going to believe you.
Yeah.
So I just gave it all to God. And thank goodness, because I'm telling you, there's too many people on that list that you want to kill. It's like,
Yeah, but you know what? And Kim, again, I'm sorry that happened to you. I think, like anything else, what happens is we all come to faith in different ways, but it's necessary to help us get through all the different things that we're dealing with. And I think what happens is the reason why, one, I think the Lord wants us to share our testimonies is for situations just like this, is that we have to be able to hear what each other has gone through to strengthen what we do when we go out to try to help somebody else. Now, when I put the replay in the group, we don't know who may watch that, who may never have said anything to any one of us, who may now say, I need to get some help, or, oh my God, that happened to me. And that's the reason why we share what we share, we do what we do, because the conversations are necessary for us to grow, even now, after things that we've gone through. It took me, I guess, when I came to the Lord at 37. So I tell folks I lived two lives. For 37 years, it was the way I wanted to live. The last 15, I'll be 53 in 9 days? Okay, so I'll be 53. So in the last 16 years, 15 and change, it's been living a different way because I was able to accept everything from my past. Now, I have seen my cousin many times since then. And the funny thing is he's in a wheelchair. He fell off a roof and he's in a wheelchair. Every time I see him, I kind of laugh and go, you was out here humping kids. Now look, you can't walk. And I'm like, God took care of that. I had to, because I knew if I said something to him, I'd beat you up in the wheelchair and everybody in the family was like, why is he assaulting cousin so-and-so in the wheelchair? My thing is God took care of you anyway, so we good. And the funny thing is, as I got older, and what I found, and I found this to be the case with my father, when I tell my father, I needed you more at 39 than I did at 19, because I would not have heard him at 19. We would have fought. And we'd have fought simply because I was a wild animal. I wasn't trying to hear nothing that any man had to say. And so I was beyond an alpha male. I was a wild animal. But at 39, because now I had found my way back to what I wanted to be and was living it and living my own truth now that God had placed out in front of me. Now at 39, I could have that conversation with him, was how were you able to get your life situated, having multiple babies and so forth and so on, where we were having conversations as peers, not just father and son. A year later, I'm sitting across from a son of mine who I didn't know for 26 years. And now I'm playing the position of my father. He's playing the position of me. And now I know how to deal with it because I fixed what went on between my father and I. So what's very important is that you guys sharing your testimony, and I appreciate all of you for allowing us in for that information, is all of you have something that when you feel comfortable enough to give that out, if you look at it, the pain is still the pain, but you just listen to multiple pathways to be able to deal with it. And even you guys that are sitting quietly, I don't mind that too, simply because I know you have your own pain. And it's all at different levels, but how we address it. And this is why I said the other day, men, don't try to fix her. Simply try to continue to help her to be who she is at the moment that you meet her. Because most men, and again, Tiff and I talk about this often, most men wouldn't be able to deal with what they hear from the women if they were to tell them the full truth of everything that went on for them to get to this point. And I know that from working at a motel and seeing some of the women that were coming through in the late 80s, early 90s on crack, that now when I see them and they look gorgeous and they've been married 10 or 15 years, I noticed that the marriage is about 3 to 4 to 5 years after that crack epidemic stopped. So I'm pretty sure that their history may not go as far back when she gonna say, I used to stand out here on Rockaway Boulevard half naked and I used to come up in this motel and then get naked. But I get it because, and I remember running into a sister right there on Guy Brewer, what is that, 16, I wanna say 163, wherever, what is that, the Burger King, what's the name, right on the corner where the Walgreens is. I believe that's 163 right up from York. And I ran into a sister. I'm coming up and she sees me and she was trying to remember, like, where do I know him from? And the closer that I got, you saw her eyes get very wide. And it was like, oh God. And when I seen her man come out the store, he said, what's up? You doing, sweetheart? Everything good? How you doing, brother? And I left it alone because I'm not going to blow you up, sister. I know what you used to be, but that's not for me to be rude or disrespectful because whatever you did to get to this point is so much better than when I saw you last when you was out on here on these streets doing whatever you're doing. Sadly, a lot of men don't know how to do that. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I think some men are intrigued with that side of you. And they want to know simply because, like I think like Tamari said the other day, they want that information so they can use it against you at different times or even be able to position you to be in a position where they can get what they want when they want it. And again, that's the sad part, that you should be able to stand on your own and not have to manipulate a woman to be able to keep her in pocket. Your actual being should be enough. But I don't think, and we talked about this the other day too, I don't think enough men are being taught how to be real men. And that's a destructive part of no father or no male figures in the home. And so I want to ask you guys this: how do we bridge that? Like, how do we open that door to allow, like Lisa, when she has somebody that information, or Tamari, how do we open that door from our own platforms? And Michelle, I know you'll probably jump in here because I know you're already doing it. How do we open that door to be able to be that bridge for other people? I know what I do, but Michelle, give me some of what you do, because I know that you're a beacon for a lot of women that have been abused, and you actually have little secret ways to be able to let them get to you if they need help. So give us some ideas of some things that you do, Michelle.
Oh, wow. Well, some of the things that I do in order to let them know that I am here for them, of course, you know, I let it out on social media that, you know, that I'm here. I am affiliated with a domestic violence shelter that's here. Um, uh, you know, so that if anybody needs some help, especially, you know, like when they're relocating, or, you know, they want to relocate, or if they want to, if they just want to get out of their situation, first, you have to do it safely. You know, I'm here to give them a safety plan. I mean, there was one time when, he was like attached to her hip, and she had to go, every place that she went, he was with her. But there's one place that he couldn't go, was in the room in the doctor's office. So what we had to do was we had to coordinate with the doctor to let her out the back door, so that she could get away. You have to think of ingenious ways to help women, get away. With my publishing company, I have a website, where they might be looking for books and whatnot, but they can leave me a message and it'll come directly to my email, where I can read it, and then I can try to, contact them, to come in, because a lot of times, they look at everything that they do. So that's a easy, quick way for them to let me know. what's what's going on. Um, there's a myriad of things, but as a domestic violence counselor and as a survivor, you you really don't know. You really don't know.
Gotcha.
There are many things. You can even leave a let's say if you go to a public bathroom, you can leave kind of like a door hanger so that people, if they go in there, they say, oh wow, they can, they'll see that, and they can contact me. I usually leave my email or my phone number, for them to you know, for them to contact me. But you just have to think of ingenious ways, especially now in these times of COVID. You have to think of
Yeah. Think of it, be
ingenious
safe at the
ways,
same time. Yeah.
yeah, so that they can.
And you're in South Carolina, right, Michelle?
I am in South Carolina, but I have connections to with the domestic violence shelter that I'm with. I have connections across the country, so it doesn't really matter where they're from. I am
Got
physically in South Carolina, but if they contact me, I will get them some help wherever they are.
got you. And that's even more reason why we reach out and talk. And you guys hear me all the time talk about sharing, because it's very, very important. And Michelle is giving her story, and I'm making sure I'm using the social media name. I don't want you threatening me no more. But so, because again, when you listen to the stories, another thing that it does, it helps to fortify your motivation. When we get to listen to each other, it gives us a little more strength to keep doing it, or to maybe step across a boundary that we weren't really prepared for, when you hear somebody else be able to say what they've been through or what they're doing. And also, it gives us ideas. When we try to keep it all to ourselves, it's very difficult inside our own head to try to heal and plan at the same time. It's very difficult because both require a lot of energy and a lot of focus. When you can have somebody else doing the planning while you're healing, then the only thing, it might be a matter of somebody saying, come on, let's make this move. Come on, let's go. And if you're a child, back to what we're talking about, when it's a child, when a child knows, and I think, and I want to just stress this to you guys, when a child knows that they're going to be safe when they come to you, there's nothing they won't share with you. I have had a young lady who was an A student, 95s across the board. She was 13 years old and thought it was okay that her boyfriend of 17 or 18, I think it was, had convinced her that anal sex was the best way to do it because she won't get pregnant, her mom won't know. And because we had the conversation in class when I was teaching sex education and stuff like that, and I had a question box that I used to put the questions in, write them in all type of horrible handwriting to open up the door. So I would ask the questions that I knew the kids were thinking about to draw them in to ask me questions. Had a box that always stayed on top of my desk. They could always put questions in at any time. And I would say, I'll never read them in class. Once you put them in, I'll always read them after you go. So as I'm going through my questions, I'm taking my questions out and putting them in my drawer because I always throw them back in at the beginning of class. I see this one note and I read it and I know the handwriting because it's too great. I'm like, and I look and I said, I know whose handwriting this is because you never had to put your name on the notes. And she literally said, can you get pregnant from anal sex? And I'm like, what? And I had to read this again. And I was like, can you? And I'm looking at the handwriting. So then I knew who it was. So I waited until the next time I had them. And I asked her to see me after class. And I said, I know you wrote this. Talk to me. And she's talking to me and she explained to me what's going on. And she said, well, my boyfriend, this and this. And, I go through the whole professional thing. And then I said, what you doing with a boyfriend? You like 13 years old. Come on, you like one of the best students in the school. And then I said, who's your boyfriend? Because I always joke with the kids, who's your boyfriend? I said, because I don't ever see you with no boys here. And when she lowered her head, I knew something wasn't right because the energy changed, the vibe changed. And I said, one, pick your head up, talk to me. What's going on? And she said, if I tell you, I'm going to get in trouble. Now I'm stuck because I'm a mandated reporter. And I know that whatever she's about to say next, I'm going to have to report. So the bigger problem is, do I continue the conversation? And I know teachers who have told me, well, Belvin, I would have stopped talking at that point. So you would have let a child continue to get hurt because you worried about whatever. So I said to her, listen to me. I want you to tell me. And I'm telling you right now, I'm going to have to tell somebody whatever you tell me, but I'll rock out with you. I'll go with you to the guidance counselor. I'll sit there with you with the guidance counselor. I'll sit you when they call your moms. I'll rock out with you. You know, Mr. B got you, but you got to tell me because we got to deal with this. And then when she explained to me who he was, and I was like, is he in high school? She's like, yeah, I met him because she was a statuesque young lady. So she was more developed than a lot of the other young ladies. That's why she was doing so well in school. And so, okay, fine. We went through all the steps, told the guidance counselor, and her mom lost her mind. And while the transfer, because her mother wanted her out of the school, oh man, I guess her mom must have tore her behind up. And so she was mad at me because he got locked up and the whole thing. And she was like, you messed up my whole life. I said, sweetheart, I'm gonna tell you this. Hate me now. You'll love me later. I said, you won't be able to realize what I did now. Years from now, you'll understand what I did. And when I ran into her in Canarsie, 10 years later, and she told me that, you know, she was just finishing up med school. I said, you still hate me? And she said, no, I don't hate you. And I said, but what I don't understand is, what did he say to get around your defenses? Because you were smart. She said, he just really made me feel like I was attractive, and all the other boys on my age made me feel like I was silly because I was taller or because I was more developed. And she said, he just made me feel like I was cute. And I said, wow, that was it. And that was enough to get her to not only, and then I'm thinking anal sex. I'm like, the pain didn't tip you off that this wasn't cool? She's like, well, I kind of got used to it. Nah, you don't get used to that till you get older, but okay, whatever. But you know, this is what guys do. And then I found she wasn't the only kid, because urban kids started to spread the word to each other that you can have anal sex, still go to the GYN, hymen is in place, and you're out here having sex. So you're actually giving the man pleasure, but don't care that you get in pain. And this is what the little girls was actually sharing with each other. And because they trusted me, I used to get all this information, but knew I had to give it to authorities. And I told kids, yes, I'm going to snitch. And they still knew it and still came to me. And that's the reason why I do what I do, is because you have to lay that foundation for them to know, if I come to Mr. B, he got me. So Tamara, go ahead. I saw your hand up, darling.
Here's the toughest part for me. I'm a certified rape crisis counselor.
There you go.
And I'm a mandate reporter too. So I used to, and being a victim of rape, gang rape, by 7 guys or whatever. At the age of 12. And then I had a child. I had a child at 14. So, looking at my life now, that's why I want to write this book now that I'm in a stable place. It's hard because I came to where I live right now from a domestic violence shelter from my first husband trying to kill me. And I came here, then ended up in my same marriage. He wasn't physically abusive, but mentally and emotionally, psychologically, I was gaslighted and all that stuff, making myself going crazy. And I finally was smart enough. He stabbed my son, whole gamut of stuff. It's tough because I pulled away from being an advocate because I end up in the same cycle of abuse, because I was like, how can I help women when I end up in a cycle of abuse? When I talked to my therapist and she told me there's a lot of women that go through that. You don't believe it. A lot of women that go help other people end up being in the abuse pattern again. But I felt ashamed because I was like, how can I talk to someone and let them know to help yourself when I'm not helping myself? So I pulled away from it. Now that I can get out of the relationship and go through all the stuff that I've gone through, even though my divorce will be final on Tuesday and I can't wait so I can have a party. We're all having a party at my house. My kids are coming over on the 26th and we're having a celebration and all that stuff, what we call my divorce celebration at my home with my family. It's tough because, going through whatever you're going through and feeling bad about yourself because this was what everybody else told you, well, it's your fault, and it wasn't just him. I mean, I had cousins doing this to me. I had my whole life. You feel like your body is your way of dealing with things. So I dealt with things like you through sex. You know what I mean? I was angry. I didn't know how to deal with that. So I dealt with things through sex, and I felt like that's all I had to give because I didn't have nothing else to offer. You know what I'm saying? So it's tough. It's tough.
No, you're right, and it actually it's you get it when you do the study, and it actually tells you the type of behaviors and reactions, and when I've done studies that were done on strippers or people who have entered the porn industry, a lot suffered from abuses in earlier stages, which then turned them to a life where it was like, well, if I'm going to get abused, I'm going to get paid for it. And if I'm going to be touched by some man, then they're going to give me money, or I'm going to, create a whole life for it. And there's a lot of the mental is as bad as the physical, and they all have to be addressed along with the spiritual. And it's interesting that I see people attack people who lived a certain lifestyle who now turn to a spiritual life, and they actually go, oh, she's suspect because she was out here slinging it, or she was out here doing whatever. Now you out here trying to be a preacher. Now you out here trying to be whatever. And one that comes to mind is like Vanity. When, in Vanity 6, her whole vibe was sexual. The whole thing was sexual. The music was sexual. Everything about her was sexual. But then when you listen to her use of drugs and her promiscuous and everything like that, to find herself to become a woman of God and actually become a lay pastor, people were literally attacking her, saying, oh, now you want to be this when you was out doing whatever. And if you've never gone that route, to understand that the freedom that comes from being okay with just, yeah, that's what I was, but I was able to find God, and God gives a balance, a foundation where you go, yeah, this happened, but now look where God knew I'd end up here. That bridge is enough to hold some people's sanity in place, because if not, your past can cause so much damage to your present that your future never becomes what it could be, because you're still struggling with trying to deal with what happened, especially when, and I had this conversation with a client the other day, is that 75% of the time in these situations, the person is someone who you knew, someone who, and KL has a safe word that we tease her on every day, that if somebody comes to you and says, come, your father wants you, your mother wants you, but KL sometimes is so dizzy with it that I don't know if she's going to remember it, so we have to quiz her, and I have to get mean sometimes to get her attention with it. But this is just the world that we live in, so we try to limit the avenues to things where information would come in that override what we're talking about. Now, when I have spoke to parents, one of the things that I say is, whatever is in your house, and I say the same thing to you guys, whatever's in your house that you don't control, that's where the devil will get in. And what I mean by that is, if you don't control your cell phone, or you don't control the computer, or you don't control cable, whatever you don't control in your house, that is where the devil and the molester will get in. Because what happens is, I don't know how many parents that I have watched on open school night cannot work a smartphone. But you got a $500 phone in your hand and you can't work it. And then you turn to your kid and go, program this for me. Now the child goes, you don't know how to use that damn thing. So I'm going to watch porn on it, give it back to you, because you have no idea what I'm doing on it, and you can't check what I'm doing anyway. And the reason why I know this is my son in Maryland was taking his mother's phone and pretty much on Pornhub, having a ball. He, I guess, got too excited and forgot to close something out or whatever. Mom's opened it up and was like, what the hell is this? Hey, little one. And then she called and was like, you need to talk to your son. He ain't listening to porn. I'm like, I need to talk to my son because you don't know how to lock your phone? Okay. We had a conversation. He basically told me, hey, mom don't know what the hell she doing. So I had the conversation. I was like, so what was you doing? He was like, I had no access because they cut the cable. She wasn't letting me watch it on cable. So you finagled how to watch it on her phone. And what'd you tell her? You were doing homework? He said, oh, damn, how'd you know? Like, my sons came to my house, and I remember I went back and I looked at the cookies and I looked at some other things on my computer, and I see all the porn sites. I ain't been to these sites. I'm like, hold on a second. So I sat them both down and said, okay, I'm going to ask you one time, who's watching the porn on my computer? And they both look, and I know it's the older one, but the younger one is scared because he's trying to figure out, how did dad know? So they already know they're about to get, and they know if I'm asking, I already know. So the first thing my oldest son said, it was me. I said, so you come into my house and sneak on my computer to do what? And they copped a plea, and then they said, okay, I'm not gonna beat you, but no, you don't come in here and do that. And then of course he wanted to ask, Dad, how'd you know? I ain't gonna tell you, because there's nothing that moves in this house or any wherever I live. The computer, the phone, everything, I'm in control of. I don't bring nothing in the house that I'm not controlling of. And I say that to parents because when you have children, here's the danger. It's not what you present. And I think Lisa hit on it very well. When Lisa, because of the bridge that she created with her daughter, it spilled over to allow someone else to be able to have that conversation, because obviously she's imitating the skills that she learned from her mother with her friend. That's another reason why we should put those things in place. Now, but what happens is it is the friend. Now, Lisa said something that's extremely, extremely important, because what I found in school, the good kid gets incorporated to what the bad kids are doing, because the bad kid will say, and I've heard 2 6th graders say, have you ever had oral sex? And I'm walking behind them in the hallway like, y'all 11. But it's one kid saying, have you ever? Because she's literally introducing it to her. I didn't like it at first, but I learned, you 11. So the other 11-year-old is like, ew. But if enough people surround you and say you should try it, well, we know that peer pressure is a powerful thing. And the reason why we know peer pressure is a powerful thing, how many times have y'all said, girl, I got to work in the morning? Oh, come on. Come on, it's happy hour. Come on, it's what, come on, you ain't partied in a week. Come on, you that man getting on your nerves. They give you every excuse to come hit the streets. Now about 2 hours in, 4 drinks down the back of your mind, you go, I got to go to work in the morning. I ain't messing with y'all. And then you order another drink. Okay, that's an adult. But now when you're sitting in a room full of 4, 5, 6, 7 girls, and everybody's in their line about what they did, didn't do, and with boys is worse. Every boy in the room got a large penis, and every boy in the room done knocked down 1,000 chicks. And I sit and look and go, all y'all not holding, but keep on lying. I feel you. Go ahead and do what you got to do, because I don't want to be the one to go, my shit's small. Yeah. Nobody want to be that dude. So then what happens? They actually start to pressure you into how you react with a female. So here you're out doing things to a woman that is not what your family taught you to do. And the reason why I know this is that I don't know how many family members that I've had come up when I was a dean go, I don't know why my son or my daughter is acting this way. And they didn't raise them that way. But that's the power of influence. Now, what I do like is that, like Michelle and Tamari, from your experience, you then became the conduit for change as somebody working in the field, to be able to say, this happened to me, let's talk about it. That's important too, because we need them on both sides. We need those who just do it because they went to school to do it. We need those who have lived it, went to school through it. Now, it's all needed, because somebody has to be able to hear somebody go, I've gone through this, because it allows their pain to make sense. See, often when we're in pain, Kim talked about it earlier. I don't know where that came from. Yeah, I'm bringing you up tonight, Kim. That's right. You're going, yeah, you're going to be cursing and yelling and screaming. Well, then black your camera out. I'm only repeating what was said. You said that tonight, by the way, so I'm not talking about Wednesday. When Kim said, I don't know where that came from. Well, actually, often many of us hold on to things that we don't know where it came from. And it triggers. And actually, I talk about it because when I write my goals for certain folks, I always add one to address or identify triggers. The key is to try to figure out in my counseling sessions what those triggers are, and then how can we treat those triggers. Many of us know our triggers, so we do the best we can to try to avoid them. Some of us don't. And some of us don't know it's a trigger until we're actually triggered. And then it's the feeling of afterwards, like, oh my God, I can't believe I allowed him to get me there. I can't believe I allowed her to take me there. I can't believe I did this at work. Well, it don't make a difference where you are once you're triggered, because what's coming out is what you tried to press down. Now, I'm of the belief that no matter how much you press something down, it ain't going nowhere. It's going to stay there, but it's going to pop and it's going to come back. But here's what I found that happens. When it does come back, it comes back more ferocious. And at times when you can't really deal with it, if it's not in a structured environment. And often there's innocent folks who get hurt by it because they may not know that they triggered you. They may not know where it's coming.
He froze. He'll be back in a couple of
From. And
minutes.
sometimes, and again, I got to speak up for the brothers. I wish there was more men here. Sometimes. Okay, am I back yet?
Yeah, you're back.
You're back.
Elsa, you?
There we go. Yeah, she Elsa.
Let it go. Let it go.
That's the you got to get a new laptop. That's the you got to get a new laptop frills, but it's okay. The idea is that with some men, when they're trying to get close to the new woman, they don't realize that they might have stepped on a landmine and triggered an emotion, not that they were trying to. And unfortunately, some good men become collateral damage to something that they had nothing to do with because they don't know where that came from. And you may not know where it came from, or you may not know that it was an issue. Go ahead, Kim. Now, you raise your hand now, so you can't get at me now.
This is something very light.
Go ahead, baby.
Right? I work for transit, and I was the first female to come out to Queens Division. And they learned very early not to bother me. And I had one young man come up to me, and he grabbed my right forearm. As he approached me, I'm telling you, this is a lightweight brother too. As he approached me, I had a big pen in my hand. And I went from holding it like I'm gonna write to holding it like I was gonna stab. And when he grabbed my forearm, I just went around, and I was nice because I didn't drive it all the way through. I just punctured him. And he screamed, said, "Ah, you stabbed me." I said, "Ah, you grabbed me." So we went to the office, and as I'm cleaning him up, I said, "You never know what a woman has experienced in her life."
Exactly.
So it would be your best not to put your hands on a woman.
True.
Because you don't know what that energy triggers.
Yeah, you don't.
And somebody else was like, "Dang, Kim is cleaning you up and talking smack at the same time." I said, "No, I'm not. I'm trying to help him out because the next woman
may
drive it all the way through."
Stab him dead in the chest. Kill him.
It was only a big pen.
You don't know. You don't. Well, big pen is that fantastic plastic. Listen, you take a big pen and right up under the chin. That'll take care of everything. There's no bone there. Take a big pen, go straight under the chin. He'll leave you alone for if he make it. He may not. He may have a like a whale for the rest. But I'm gonna be honest with you. That's the reason why I really tell men that you got to talk. Tiff and I talk all the time, and part of the reason why Tiff doesn't argue because she watched her mother and biological father argue, then she watched her mother and her stepfather argue. That has had lasting implications with her, so she tends not to get into any type of disagreements, but then it will blow up because she stores all that inside. So she's literally exploding over something that happened a month ago, and I honestly don't remember. So when she's exploding, I'm like, what the hell? And then I'm listening to what she's talking about. I'm like, what? And I'm like, that was a month ago. Yeah, but and I'm like, so then I've learned to just let her get it out. Come on, let the energy wave past me. Then I'm like, you done? Okay, can we talk about it now? Because she don't want to deal with it then. She wait, let it all store up like a nuclear reactor, and then boom, Hiroshima in the house. Okay, I'll deal with it. We good. But I try to teach men, that's why you have to give a woman her space to give you an opportunity to learn who she is. But you got to know how to have that conversation. You got to make her feel comfortable that when she gives you that information, it's not being given to hurt her. It's given to you to help her continue to be who she is, or to help her find that last step to healing. That's why when I was telling you tomorrow, it's not a matter of fixing, but she may need that last step. Like I give you an example. When Tiff and I first came together, Tiff was strongly independent. Even so much that after we got married, she was still reacting like a single woman. I had to have a conversation with her, go, I know you're independent. I'm not taking away your independence, but we're married now. Certain things just aren't going to work if we're going to be married, and you got to let that go. but she had to feel comfortable that I was who I was supposed to be and it was able to get there. So it wasn't so much fixing her, it was adding to where she already was to be able to bring that together, to be able to move into a direction together. So it's not a matter of a person coming into your life to fix you. It's a matter of you two coming together and you get so closer together that now your healing of whatever pushes you into something new. Go ahead, Tamara. You had your hand up, though.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, partly the reason why I got out of this marriage is because after I attacked him with a knife and bamboo, and I told him, I said, I can see myself going to jail and it ain't worth it. You know what I'm saying? The fact that what you did to my son and the fact that what you're doing to me, I'm gonna lose my mind and go to jail. I didn't go to the jail for the first one who almost tried to kill me. I ain't go to jail behind you. You ain't worth it. And the first one never touched my kids. He was always hitting me. But you went after my son, and now I'm in my head, I'm thinking because you're saying that you're going to put him in jail if I don't do what you did, and I end up getting married because so you don't hurt my son, but I hurt myself. I saw myself, I'm going to go to jail. I kept praying. I'm like, I kept praying to God, get me out of this because I'm going to end up going to jail and spending the rest of my life because he's going to trigger me one day. And the 14 years I was with my ex, and now he's putting me through, I'm going to explode and I'm going to go loony and they're going to get me off because I'm going to go crazy. They're going to let me go off because they're going to see the whole history and the fact that you've been that how many cops. So I understand what you're saying about.
I'm a little scared that you knew that though. I'm
yes,
a little scared that you knew they would let you go.
No, I knew. I had to step away, Keith. You have to understand. Either me praying to God and giving me a beacon of light to say, I know my breaking point, but you have to step away and do that because, you know, if not, you end up like most women who are spending the rest of their life in jail because they end up killing their abusers because nobody's listening to them or they're victimizing the victim.
I agree. And I think what you just said is important is that you got to understand what the potential outcomes could be. That's another reason why we have to come together like this. But it's also one of the powers of NA and AA and Sex Anonymous. If you've never been to an NA meeting, they'll allow you to go in and sit. I went when I was studying in school and I had to go for about 4 weeks, had to go for a month. I felt incredible to sit and listen to the stories of folks who were talking about their addictions. And what I found very interesting, I went 4 weeks in a row. And the thing that stood out to me was that each week it was a different group of people. Now it was the same instructors, the same people heading the group, but it was a different group each week on the day that I was there. Now they might have come to other groups, but I just found it different that 4 weeks in a row, a different set of people came in to the group. And then when you hear the shares, I actually felt embarrassed that I wasn't a former addict in terms of drugs. I was a former addict in terms of sex. But I felt embarrassed that should I really be here? Should I really be here listening to their stories when I'm not suffering what they're suffering from? But the woman that ran the meeting pulled me to the side because I said that after week 1. I said, wow, I almost feel like I shouldn't be here. She said, no, you need to be here because you have to be there when they get through this. She said, this gets them off the street and this gives them somewhere to be able to hold on while they're struggling. They're going to need somebody else to go to once they come through this. So that kept me coming back. And then I had to write notes and I had to write a paper. And I remember sitting with the leaders and she had been clean 30 years. And she was just explaining to me what she did when she was out there on the streets. And the brother had been clean 27 years. And he was explaining how bad things had got from him. And I remember what the day one person, when a person stood up and said, this is my first day here. And I was just getting high last night, but I needed some help here. And it was the love and it was the, well, come on, you know, we're glad we're here. And you get the keychain that it's your first day. And it's anybody here is their first day. Is anybody here that's their first week? Is anybody here 1 year or 5 years, 10 years? And it was like seeing that keychain, something as small as that, but it was it was connected to. And what that's helped me to do going forward is when I talk to anybody is to understand you don't know their past. And I want you to feel comfortable with sharing that with me Okay. I want you to share that. I'm trying to read at the same time I'm looking. I want you to share that with me because we have to be the examples of the things we want people to do. Gandhi said, be the light that you want to see in the world. And we have to be able to do that because there's too many people that's holding on to pain and they simply don't know where, they simply don't know where to take that to. They don't know who to give that to, and they don't know where to turn. And so groups like this and other groups that you're in and other circles that you're in, don't hesitate to share. Hey, Jackie, don't hesitate to share what you've been through because I'm telling you, somebody needs it. Somebody, no matter where you are, like I said, I'll post this in the group once I get everything straight and can save it. Somebody's going to watch this and they're going to go, wow, maybe I need to show up next week or Wednesday or next Friday and share what's going on with me. And that little bit could be enough that a mother and child talk tonight who weren't ready to talk, or that father could maybe sit down with his son or his daughter and go, you know what, I just saw something, maybe I need to. And I know because I got people that call me on a regular and they're like, how should I do this with my kids? And then the sad part is I see some of these $1 million gurus. I listen to them and I'm listening and I'm trying to hear, so people are throwing money at you, but how are you actually saving lives when I don't hear you addressing things that I know are causing people pain? So what I want to say to you guys is that one is always thank you. Thank you for everything that you share. Thank you for everything that you do, and just thank you for being here. Tiff and I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about tonight. We really up to the last minute because we have a lot of different ideas, but it's also a matter of how can we frame it in a way that not only makes it entertaining, that gives you an opportunity to pull something from it. Because that's our hope every time we get together, is that you take something from what we do. Now, I wanted to say this before we get ready to get off. Anybody that's into tomorrow, I know you already have the information. I sent it to you. Anybody that's interested in writing in their book, but typing may be your issue. I'm holding a webinar in January, the 23rd on a Saturday, 4 o'clock, where I'm going to walk you through for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, where I'm going to walk you through how to create a book without typing, which I was able to do for 2 of the books. And I'll give you 2 different ways that you can do that, because I just think there's so many stories. And so for me, I had to put mine in a book, and I had to let folks know what that transformation became, because I had to tell folks how I went from what that looked like to how I got here. Yeah, y'all scaring the brothers off because they talk a great game and all the posts. I'm just looking at what y'all saying is, y'all, let me tell you something. I watch all the brothers posting in the regular stuff in the room. They know we in here. And we ran off my man that was here the other day, OB.
Yes,
OB
what
said
happened to Otis? I was about to ask. What happened?
I'm gonna be very political. I'm gonna say he said he had to go change his clothes and some other things, and that's why he didn't come back. And that's his story. That's what we're gonna go with. We're gonna leave it at that. We all have cameras. Right. So what I found is that I also think with the fellas, and I think what happened is, I think some of the fellas thought that they could come here and they were going to massage the situation to help them gain leverage. Nah, this ain't that type of group. And y'all ain't those type of women. And I also think what happens here, especially for some of the men, you can't get away with very fragile and very limited conversation. You're going to be challenged. You're going to be pressed in terms of what do you mean by that? And you just can't come in and say some shallow little line. And even my man Ronell, he actually hit me up and said, I apologize for something I said. I said, no, I know what you were joking about, but you don't know the history of some of the women here. And when I explained it to him, he was very saddened by what he said. And it's okay, because my job is to watch what's said. And if I believe anybody at any point is going in some direction they're not supposed to go in, I'm going to see you and have that conversation, which I did. And I think with some of the men, yeah, they see y'all and they taking their shots. They don't know who they don't know who got a husband. Listen, that's okay too. Still social media, but please understand, you're climbing these waters. You better have on a hard rubber suit. You might get dragged under the boat. I can't help you. These ain't stupid women in here, and they've been through some stuff. You better swim hard. So when you're climbing these waters, you better know what's going on. And we get real threats in here. See, Dana quiet, but she ain't threatened me tonight. So Dana had an ice cream. She good. Now she got the blanket up. You need anything else? You need some tea? You good? Yo, Dana went from sitting up eating to I'm straight. Now we're gonna see the light click off, and it's just gonna be like a blank screen. But that's the beauty of being here. And again, I just want to tell you all thank you. And I think like anything else, this is a safe place to have conversations. And if there is anything that you guys want to talk about, just send it to me. If you're not sure, if you say, I think this would be a good idea, send it to me. You know, we'll look at it. We'll figure out what we could do. Some I may tackle by myself. Some I may wait. Or if you think it's something that you'd like to hear Tiff and I together, hit me up and go, I would love to see this on a Friday. That's fine too, because I'm here to offer whatever works. Yes, men don't seem to want to tackle. They don't really want to tackle the hard questions, Michelle, because you know what happens? And this is what I find with the men. With hard questions, they then have to acknowledge their own behavior. And that's hard to do because you cannot talk about being a protector of women and you don't give us a genesis of where that started. See, I wrote a book about my trash. It's out there. It's public, it's whatever. And I can give you dates. I can tell you 37 years, last 15. I can give you dates. I can tell you experiences that happened that triggered that. So my history is verified. What a lot of brothers, the reason why they can't put that out there is because they weren't living it to begin with, or they're not living it now. So they're used to giving the slick, educational, smart, smooth line, and that might work for the initial hello. And then what they're hoping to do is carve you away from the pack to be able to get you to be impressed with them. In here, you can't do that. You're on Front Street in here. And in here, when you talk, you got a bunch of people listening. Even before we got on Zoom, it's the same thing in the chat. You can try to get slick in the chat, but y'all gonna check them. And I watch what's going on a lot of times in the chat. I'm like, bro, you might not want to type that. I'm like, you might not want to go there. But it is what it is but this is the way it's supposed to be, because if you're gonna come in here, then you better come to the table with some receipts. You better come to the table and you better offer something. I don't have no problem with anybody who stays quiet, because I think what you saw on Wednesday, because I know Barbara's story, I know why she sits quietly, but she's a powerful voice. So if you notice, she chilled, and then when she said, Keith, may I, she has something to say. And it's not that she don't have receipts. And I'm telling you, if you ever listen to her whole story and her whole recovery, to have your mother sell you into prostitution, and then you start doing drugs, and somehow you get past all of that abuse to not only become an advocate, but to write books and now be a voice to it. That's a hard 65 years. So no, if she's going to stay quiet, she's earned that. But when she speaks, she brings something to the table because she's going to speak to heal. Well, that takes time for some folks. You can't come in here and shuck and jive that. You can't come in here and play that. And I'm not going to allow you to come in here. I may not be the smartest person in this room, but I'm damn sure the leader in this room. And the reason why is you're not going to come in here and do anybody dirty on my watch with my name on it. Not happening. And I think what happens is men who quote unquote want to be alpha males, it's hard when they face another one. I've learned that. It's very hard. And so I noticed that a lot of men, when they're in my presence, Tiff can tell you I'm a bully, and sometimes I don't even have to say anything, because I've noticed that some men, they chirp great until you show up and go, excuse me? And you ask a question. You don't even have to be threatening. You just ask a question. All of a sudden you see the heart start to shrink. Where you going, bro? A minute ago, you was the man. But that's why we're going to keep doing what we do. Actually, Tisha was trying to get in tonight. I don't know if she registered. She kept saying she couldn't get in. And I kept saying, did you register? And she never actually. And the funny thing is, I see all the people registering. So listen, they'll get in when they get in. The idea is that we're going to be here for you in whatever capacity that you need us to be here. So again, as we get ready to bring this to the close, I simply want to say to all of you, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for trusting us with your truth. Thank you for allowing Tiff and I and everybody else in the group to hear where you are and where you're going. And whatever we can do to help, even if it's just prayer. I do have a Bible study group. If you want to come join the Bible study group, I do have that. And it's very simple. I just put up the weekly study prayer. I mean, the study scripture for the week, and it's there if you need prayer. One of the young ladies, her and her husband just got home from the hospital. They're fighting off COVID. He still has pneumonia, and she's having some breathing issues, but they're home. And we're going to keep praying for them. But the goal is just to give you a place spiritually where you can come and just read some of the scriptures, study on your own pace. It's basically like a rest stop. You come and whatever you need us for, that's fine. If you need prayer, you ask me for it, I got you. And then you can branch off to other things, like Michelle runs her group, and you can do Bible study with her if you want to do all females, which is fine. That's my goal for all of you. Interconnect with each other. Share with each other. I know Dana's in school and she's just finishing up, and I know all of you do different things, and I know Lisa does some things. Every one of y'all are doing something. Don't hesitate to bring that to the table if you think it can help somebody else here or yourself, because that's another thing that we have to do is support each other. And I definitely appreciate all you guys who have bought books and everything else, and Kim with the apparel. I appreciate that. And we're going forward into the new year, and Tiff and I are going to create other products. The webinar was because people asked me, that's what they wanted to do. I'm getting the listing of the webinars that Tiff and I are going to teach. And with the webinars, the difference is it's going to be in this format, but it's going to be strictly on that subject and giving out for that hour and a half to 2 hours, solid learning on what that is. So at the end of the 2 hours, when you turn off your computer, you have something that you can work with that day, or something that you can give to somebody else. Because I don't want to work for anybody else, and I don't right now. And we're working it that this is what we're going to do on a regular, because I'm so tired of seeing all these so-called gurus who think they know what they're talking about, but yet I notice that they don't share nothing about their past. I know, and I just watched a brother who was on, and he was basically saying, God told me to tell somebody something, and I'm just watching people throw money at him. And I'm like, did anybody notice that God was telling them all this, but he didn't give them like a face or the name or something, so God don't know? I don't know who this is for, but God told me, so God told you to tell somebody? God don't know? What scripture in the Bible is that?
Mm-hmm.
And yet I keep seeing the Cash App thing pop up, and I'm like, so he just fleecing. Why? Because it sounded good. No substance, but it sounded good. We won't have that here. So what I bring to the table is real, tangible things that I hope that you guys can use, and I hope that you guys enjoy. I hope that I give you something to work with on a Friday night while we're dealing with this pandemic, because I just want all y'all to be safe. And so far, I haven't heard nobody in our group or anybody else other than some of the other friends. But the one thing I do want you to pay attention to, if you have noticed, you're starting to see that more people in your circles are popping up with this virus. It is starting to reach out. And I've already dealt with 44 people no longer here since March, 44, my mother included. And it's very, very important that you really pay attention, that we're starting to get to a point where they don't really know. They're hoping that this vaccine slows things down, but you're starting to hear more and more people who are closer to home. Oh, so-and-so got it. Oh, so-and-so got it, because this thing is airborne. It's been airborne. But now, because it's cold, people are all up in each other's face, and they're stuck. So you're coming from outdoors, bringing it into your home, and you're seeing whole families that are getting sick, which is what happened to my friend. She got sick, then her husband got sick. I didn't ask her about a 60-year-old since she didn't mention. I said, I guess she must be okay. But now they're home and they're trying to fight through it. So I want all you guys to be safe as well. And so whatever we can do, whatever I can do, and again, I'm always here for one-on-one counseling. If you feel you need somebody to talk to privately, just reach out, because this is what I do. And I left one of the agencies that I'm with. I'm partnering with another agency, and I'm hoping within a year to have my private practice in place, because this is what I'm doing here. So I appreciate you guys for being here. And so I want you to have a great weekend. I'll figure out what replays I'm going to put on for Monday. And we'll be back on Wednesday. And Wednesday is, when is Christmas Eve? Is the Thursday, right? Christmas is the Friday, right?
2 more weeks.
Christmas, yeah, Friday, 2 more weeks. Yep. Okay. So I'm thinking the following, we may do a show Christmas night. It all depends. We might, just because folks might need something to do it. Well, in your jammies, I ain't getting on here. No, I don't wear jammies. They too hot.
I know, Tiff. You can let me know when you got your onesie.
I got
I want the onesie, man.
Y'all won't get that on film. Y'all won't get that on film. Nope. If it ain't a Braven onesie, I'm not putting it on. If you see me in a onesie,
you need to make a Braven.
Well,
exactly. Make a Braven onesie. That's it.
I already told you we need some pajamas.
Exactly, Mr. Keith. We need
I'll
some
work on that.
PJs.
All right, hold on.
I need
I'll
green
work
in
on
bed.
So you
Okay.
said pajamas. Now wait, well, let me see what I got. So I got the what is I got the tees on there for ladies. I got the sweatsuits. What other stuff would y'all like? A Braven onesie? I don't know if they sell. I'll check. I'll check and see if they got.
We need a onesie with a flap, a big flap in the back.
Tiff has one of those.
Because it's too much trying to get it all off before you get to the room.
Kim, my onesie, actually, my onesie looks like my sheet.
That's what I want.
It has the flap in the back, but my butt too big.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you how to fix that.
Pitch it up, man.
Take that sheet and you add a little on the side. Cut it out so that it's like from hip to hip, right? This way.
Oh Lord, they're giving demonstration.
13 inches up, so it'll drop down.
Oh no!
But make sure the flap don't fall in the bowl.
I can't. Not the onesie demonstration. Yes. But yes, I will check into that. But yes, the apparel is there. We have a lot of things. Actually, they don't make as much for me as a big guy. I would buy it all and wear it. But it's there, and I'll see what else is there, and I'll make suggestions, whatever I can create. But this is what we do. And again, the design is to try to connect with everybody because we're building something here, we're growing something here. So again, the best thing that you can do is let folks know what we do, share what we do, let folks know the books and everything else. And if they need somebody to talk to, tell them to reach out. I have a sliding scale. I work with folks because the goal for me is to help. And as many people as I can help, this is what's happening. And I've noticed that things have picked up now in terms of some folks. And I actually have some families that I'm working with children, I'm working with adults, and I'm working with couples. And I'm slowly building that. And I find working with the children is interesting because I work with all types of children, white, black, and in between. And it's funny listening to their problems. It actually helps me with counseling with the adults. The spray sanitizer. Okay, I got you. We actually got to talk to Tiff about that lease because we actually have some big bottles, but it was just a matter of getting the smaller bottles to be able to. We had those sold out, but Tiff I think is working on that.
I have the smaller bottles now, so we just have to transfer them into the smaller bottles and put the labels. I have to order the labels. That's what's
because this is what it looked like before. And so again, we have our name on it, of course, but now we just got to figure out how we're going to work it with the labels.
I have bigger bottles now. I have I think it's 2 ounces. If I'm not mistaken, I think
it's 4 ounce bottles, right?
No, it's 2 ounces.
Yeah, but I want the little spray ones that fit in your pocketbook.
Yeah, me too.
No, the one that I have is a small bottle. It also could fit in your pocketbook because I carry it around with me. But I just have to order the labels because I don't want to put something in a bottle without a label on it, and people be like, "What's this? Or what's in it?" So just to make sure
trying to give a nip.
Exactly. We got.
Is it a spray also?
We don't want nobody getting sick. We have it.
Is it a spray also, or is that a squeeze bottle?
No, it's a spray.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I want that.
Spray. But it's 2 ounces instead of that one.
Yeah, and we have gallons of the hand sanitizer that we were able to get in before everybody started wilding out. Let me tell you real quick, we have a friend in Italy that put us on to a lot that was going on long before here in America. They gave us a lot of information. And that's also one of the reasons why I don't bother with the news is because I know in other countries they're doing things differently and they're actually containing things here. Unfortunately, what they've done, I believe they're actually allowing people to die. It actually is more cost effective.
It's population control.
Exactly. It's more effective to let people die that all of a sudden, once they've knocked off a good 300,000 people, 8, 9, 10 companies all have vaccines that are at 95, 96%, all at the same time is kind of goofy. But you got to understand is that they laid out a lot of money, trillions of dollars that they knew they weren't getting back. We don't really make a whole lot here like people think. But that's why I just stay safe, guys, because this thing is real. It's going to be rough over these next 2 months. They keep talking about it, but they're not pressing it. And I think they're doing it on purpose because this is more dangerous than they're letting on. And when you talk to people in other countries, what they have done to do the tracing and to do the testing, they put billions of dollars into testing. We haven't done that here. we still don't have mandatory testing. I'm not worried about the mask. You need to have that on, but there should be mandatory testing so you can at least know where it is. They're waiting until thousands of people are sick. We're losing, so they say, 3,000 people a day. I don't worry about those numbers. What I look at is in my circles. If I told you 44 people died since March, you'd be like, my God, what happened? What's going on? That's all I need. I don't need the 300,000 to worry about that. I'm saying in 9 months, I've lost an average of 5 people a month. That's a crisis. And I'm talking about people that I've shook hands with, hugged, bowled with, talked to that are no longer here. Exactly. That's extremely important to all of us. And I just want you guys to be safe because this thing is reaching homes. And yes, it's a 99% recovery rate. I don't want to be in that 1%. And you saw Tiny Lister died today at 62, right? Now pay attention to this. He had COVID months ago. He had got past that. So he died now, what they believe of complications connected to COVID, which I believe is the blood clots. And blood clots destroys anybody. And they're finding that when they do the autopsies, there are blood clots in every organ of the body. Everywhere. So this is why you're seeing people becoming paralyzed, people having strokes, and people having a little bit of everything, because wherever the blood clot lands, if it doesn't seize the heart, it destroys that particular part of the body. So we're seeing people paralyzed after having COVID. One of the guys who's the publisher of the story that I just created, the publisher, she told me, well, you know, the other guy, he can't walk. And also you notice in people's hair is falling out. But when did hair start falling out with viruses? People had the flu forever. Your hair didn't fall out. You got a common cold, your hair didn't fall out.
That's why I said this thing was man-made.
With HIV, your hair didn't fall out to the latest stages.
Yeah. I believe that. Let me tell you, because I was talking to somebody. I said, we've been dealing with animals for so long. I was like, you can't tell me it's going to jump from an animal. Oh, this is our RNA is jump from human to animals because of something they ate. No, you infected somebody. You let that somebody in the population to see how bad it was going to get. That's exactly what happened. And you do have
that out of control.
Always remember they put labs and silos in areas that if anything happens, the number of people who die are not going to be that major. And they always put them in areas where the people are poor because then they can't sue. So you have parts of Kansas and Montana that if those silos open up, they're not worried about the little homes that are going to get burned up or whatever. If one of these missiles blow up before it come up out of the ground. And then when you look at some of these labs, they stash labs in places that you wouldn't even know it's a lab until they tell you. Wuhan, China is a providence. It's actually off to the side from where China is. And once this thing happened, they closed Wuhan up and allowed no groceries, no nothing. And the only people they allowed in was reporters. And the people were like, yo, we're basically starving because we can't get groceries, we can't get nothing. So they shut down Wuhan, quarantined it. Why? Because but this is $1 billion lab that you put in a poor part of China. Exactly. That is because if anything happens, we ain't got to worry about anything. And the same thing with the Fukushima, the nuclear plant in Japan. Once that cracked and that stuff started to spill into the Pacific Ocean, that little town that it was sitting in, they wasn't worried about those people disappearing. They closed off the rest of Japan, and those people had to fight for themselves. And now you got two-headed fish floating up on the California coast. Well, I'm sorry, Kim, I know you're in Fresno, but if you see any two-headed fish float up, don't eat those. Okay, so you all of a sudden got animals that are floating up out of the sea that they've never seen before. Yeah, when you done put nuclear waste in the Western, you know what it's going to be. Just be careful, guys, because this thing is real, and I don't want to hear any bad news from anybody. I actually was cleaning out my page and was getting rid of followers and people that I follow, and I clicked the young lady's page and realized she's no longer here, and I didn't even know that she was gone. And I went, of course, was looking, and they had turned her page into a memorial. I guess you can do that on Facebook, which is a little morbid to me. It's like, okay, well, celebrate how you felt about this person. And I'm like, but yeah, so just be careful, guys. And we'll see you next week, and we'll figure out what we're going to do going into the holidays. But I will definitely take your ideas in consideration, and I'll put something out. And if you need anything, just reach out. We got it. All right?
All right. Hey, this is my social interaction. This is all I'm getting. So I'll be here next week. I tell people that all the time. I have become such a hermit. Like, look, I look forward to
my
it.
family, immediate family, exactly.
Same here. You need to pray. Okay, I got you. I'll send you, Kim, I'll send you a message to your inbox. Okay, I got you.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, no problem. And I got you. But yeah, whatever you need, guys, I'm here. I'm the same way, Lisa. Being not, I just told Tiff I was getting a little nervous that I was getting too comfortable just being in the house. I haven't been out. I haven't even been to the mailbox. I go to the mailbox like once a week. Other than taking Kay out to get some ice cream, maybe once a week on a Saturday, I don't come out. You know what it is? I don't trust people because I see people just being stupid. Even just getting gas, I'm uncomfortable with the way I watch people move. That we get our groceries delivered. We drop them off at the steps. We bring them in. We have an assembly line. We wipe everything down, spray everything, get rid of the boxes, and we go from there because it's the little things. This thing still sits on services. Now they're saying up to 2 weeks. You order a pizza, but you touching the box and the person touches the box, well, you've let it come in your house. You're better off taking the box, put the pizza in the oven for a little bit, throw the box away, wash your hands. If it's in the oven, that'll kill whatever's on it. Then go ahead and eat your food. The problem is the fatigue is trying to keep up with that. Even taking out your trash. I know Dana's looking like, yes, even because think about it. And it's actually not that difficult. Think about it. Taking your trash out if you live in a house, right? I watched the trash guy on our block jump out, no gloves on, put the trash can, dump it, put it down. You now come behind him. Well, he's untouched everybody's trash can in the neighborhood. So what's the odds that he done came across somebody with COVID? Of course. So we go out, we wash our hands right after, we spray our hands, or we put on gloves. Now we found out that someone in the community had actually got COVID, but they were trying to figure out like how, because she doesn't leave the house, she's older. And I said, is she touching the trash? Because even with somebody bringing you something, if you notice that they don't have on gloves, well, then you don't know where their hands have been. And remember, inside the car, they're going to take their mask off. Now, when you get the box, the real thing is you can just wipe the box down or just take out what's in there, throw the box away. Just even if it's a quick microwave for 30 seconds, you don't mess your food up. That's enough to get rid of what might have been in the food and go ahead and eat your food. There's still no proof that it's connected to food because of the heat. But the idea is that it's the other things that you touch that bring it into the house. And now they're starting to see the results of Thanksgiving starting to play havoc with the numbers. I don't worry about the numbers because they're always going to fudge them. What I listen for is the people that I know that go, oh my God, my cousin. Oh my God, my sister. Oh my God, my brother. Oh my God, my neighbor. They're sick. And then you find out they had a Thanksgiving party. And I can look on the pictures that a lot of folks put on social media, and I see the Thanksgiving party is like 14 people in the house. And I'm like, so 14 people live in that house? No. So you let everybody come up in there in order to take one person and infect the whole crib. So just be careful. Right,
I just want to say, at my job, we have an average of 3 people per day who are testing positive from COVID for the past month. 3 people.
That's
per
why
day.
I ain't working at my job. I was getting that email every week. I fought. They tried to fight me. I was telling Tiff that they were trying to fight me. I was like, I'm going home. Either that, you fire me because I'm not staying here no more. Every other email every week, somebody in your it does. And what they say is that it doesn't mean they got COVID. It means they came in contact with someone with COVID. What the heck does that mean? That means that they could be contaminated. No, you go send me home. I had a lady who called me on the phone from Alabama who's telling me in Alabama, ain't nobody wearing masks. They are hanging around with each other. And she says it. She's like, we don't care down here. Everybody going around with each other. Everybody hanging around. There's no mask. There's no mandatory anything. She said that it's skipping people because the father got sick, got COVID. He's around 15 people. Everybody tested negative and he's positive and he's sick in the hospital. So this is not, that's why I'm saying this thing is multiplying and they're skipping people. You don't know who's going to have it. You just don't know. That stuff is scary.
Also, what's happening is people knowing that they're positive, just living life like they're not. Because we had a situation where somebody came to a meeting with all the executives and knew they were not feeling well. Knew they weren't feeling well, was at the meeting. Some of them had on masks, some of them didn't. And they left the meeting and went to the hospital because they weren't feeling well and tested positive. So all the executives had to quarantine. Well, if you knew you wasn't feeling well, why would you come to the meeting? That doesn't even make sense. So I'm like, people are intentionally still going to work, still going bowling, still going to the party, knowing that they're sick.
Lise, you had your hand up. Go ahead, Lise.
Yeah, because we've been back to work since September, and the casino has been so serious about maintaining everyone's health that they send you home if you set off the alarm at coming into the building. So you could have the 101 fever and you're out. They're sending you home. You're not coming back till you come back with a test saying you're negative. But we've still caught 3 people since September. But I mean, considering that we have, what, 5,000 employees, that there are only 3 so far since September, they are doing what needs to be done. But it's literally everywhere because everybody talks about, oh, I know this one, I know that one. I'm like, well, it's going to get to the point where we're going to start to see more because that's what happened in New Jersey. Some of the casinos have already closed. So, I mean, I'm praying that it doesn't happen, but I understand where the governor's going and we don't want to be out of work. But if it's coming this way, we got to do what we got to do because I'm not getting sick. I won't touch a soul. I have not touched anybody outside of my household. I refuse. As much as I love you, I will maybe give you an elbow if I really, really, really like you. But I'm not even giving you my elbow.
I'm not coming that close. I'm not coming that close. When a guy comes to bring a pizza, I hold the door and I actually put in the thing when I'm ordering a pizza, please wear a mask. And when they hand it to me, I reach around like this because I keep the door there because guys be putting out, you ain't got to talk to me. Just hand me what I got to do. I'm paying with a credit card. I ain't holding on no money. I actually be careful now because they've actually seen a couple people who have got infected from handling money, which they already knew that was going to be the case anyway because you got people out here getting sick. And the idea is that just keep it to sanitize in your car, keep gloves in your car, and a little box of gloves in your car don't cost that much. And when you're getting out to pump gas, just think of the things that you got to touch. I personally just strap the gloves on when you first get in your car. You keep your mask on deck. And then if you got to get out, put the mask on, keep the gloves on until you get out and then throw them away because it's critical. But we just got to do the things we do until things can slow down some because a lot of these stupid people are going to learn what it is. And you're actually seeing the regret tweets and the regret posts now. Oh, my God, this is real. Oh, my God, take it seriously. Okay, so you got to wait till your chest is inflamed and you can't breathe. And now let us know that when we already knew this. And a partner of mine right there in Rochdale in Jamaica, Queens, he lost his brother and then 2 weeks later lost his mother. And he just basically riding around in a funk because what are you going to do? And then other family members are infected too. But this is what we deal with, guys. And just be careful. Just be as careful as possible. And it's very serious because again, the news is going to do what the news does. But I listen to a lot of off station. I listen to satellite radio, and I listen to folks of color who are trying to help folks of color because they're going to give a whole different brand of information. Also, pay attention to the science sites, the epidemiology. The CDC has been corrupted somewhat by Trump, but the information is still solid because it's based on science. At least gives you a starting point to go and check on what to look at. And everything else is about being smart. The one thing that the virus needs is ignorant people. It needs somebody stupid to just go out here and act like, because it can't travel without it. So if you keep your circle small, then you don't have to worry as much. It's just like Tiff and I. Tiff comes in from work, first thing she does, strips off the clothes, go wash, do whatever, because she was outside. Once she's straight and we in the house, we good, because KL and I ain't every day. I don't even go out. I don't even let KL go out as much and play because I know some of the little kids that might be out playing might want to come over. No, stay your behind over there. We'll keep it, what we do here. And even KL has gotten kind of used to it because she's like, we're safe.
Got cooties.
And I had to make her. Yeah, listen.
Look, I spray people with Lysol with no problem. I don't hesitate. You walk to my door, I'm spraying you. It's just
blinding people.
I've gotten used to the taste.
You got Lysol?
I spray so much.
Oh my God.
I never
find Lysol.
It took me 8 months to get Lysol, Kim. 8 months. 8 months.
April, I haven't been able to find it.
They actually stopped selling it as much in retail. We have a lot left because Tiff bought like 13 damn cans or whatever back in like February. So we still got like 2 or 3 cans left. But one of the things that you can use also is pine sol, but do not dilute it.
Don't dilute it.
Buy the pine sol, but do not add the water like they say. Just mix it. Just use it like that. It's fine. Don't dilute it though.
Yeah. I got a couple of bottles.
Sam's Club sells it by the case because my girlfriend who lives in Jersey, she actually brings it back to New York for the salon, so we are able to get it, and so we
Was that
all have our
Lysol?
own case.
But Lysol, where did she get it at?
Sam's Club in New Jersey. Yep.
Oh, Sam's Club.
Well,
Okay.
I think you need to send me a bottle. You need to send me a can or two, Sister Lisa.
Our Sam's Club. Our Sam's Club runs out too quickly because they have it when you go to the site, but the minute that you go to place the order, it's like all sold out. So, but do what you can. You know what? I'm gonna tell you where you go if you can get it. Well, some of the 99-cent stores and the general dollars, if you can get lucky enough, but you know, the folks have cleaned those out as well. So you got to kind of go to the smaller towns where they don't have as much traffic when you're driving and try to pop into a general. But the only problem with going into a dollar store, a general dollar, is you're going to be there with folks who probably don't believe in wearing masks. So I was in one and the man coughed, and that cough didn't sound like an ordinary cough. And he had like a shirt or something. And I was already 10 feet back. I moved back another 4 feet, and the woman behind me said, yeah, I would have moved back too, because wherever that cough came from, it sounded like it came from his belly button. I was like, nah, bro, whatever you got, that's not even the chick behind the plastic, she leaned back and she got a big plastic screen in front of her. I was like,
she's like, I bet go around this.
No, he sounded like a Jurassic Park animal with that cough. I was like, nah, go ahead, bro. And of course,
information. National Liquidators has their own brand of Lysol, and it works like Lysol. I mean, it's National Liquidators. It's called Sanitol.
But where they get it though? But where they get it though? I don't want no cat in the background. You don't know where they get that. Because National Wholesale.
I don't know where National Liquidators got it, but a couple of the maintenance guys at the casino told me that they were going to bring some. And they literally have. So I'm forever spraying my chair when I get up and I come back, because I don't know who likes to sit in my chair when I'm not there. And so far, it's been good. I cannot complain because I'm not bringing my Lysol to work.
No, well, like I said to you, one of the things I learned is that the one that's easy to get is the Pine Sol, because the Pine Sol, Fabuloso also, but again, don't dilute it, because again, it was designed for you to dilute to use, but again, you can put it in a bottle and but you're not going to spray it on anything that can get close to your skin because it's very strong. But again, it's designed just to wipe off the surface, because all you want to do is just change the surface. The virus can't stay once you clean. Any of the cleaner products will work. You just have to remember, the stronger that it is, the better it is. See, Lysol is pungent. That's why even if you breathe it, your lungs start burning with it.
Heck yeah.
But any of the cleaning, any of the reason why they don't. Just like
you don't
with
have
bleach,
to wipe that off either.
You don't, but you could use bleach too if you could actually stand the smell of it, because remember, they used bleach in hospitals before they started realizing that the fumes was choking folks. But some bleach and water still work. Bleach and water, vinegar and water, all the things that our grandparents used still work. Vinegar and water will clean off a surface. Put in a little bit of bleach in that vinegar and water. Go ahead and clean off your surface, because
put some peroxide in there and it'll get the rust off too.
Cannot sustain itself. The virus cannot sustain itself in that environment, because again, there's nothing for it to cling to. And once you wash it off, just wash your hands, you're good. Because stop and think for a second. If I can wash my hands with regular soap and water, and that removes the virus from my hands, any cleaning product that you use will clean the surface. The key is just making sure you have enough around the house so you can spray to keep the house clean. Good old-fashioned Clorox, good old-fashioned vinegar, good old-fashioned Pine Sol, good old-fashioned peroxide. All the thing, hell, even lemons. If you get some lemons and a little bit of vinegar in a bottle, shake it up. The virus cannot withstand that. Our grandparents knew it. Our Caribbean grandparents knew it. Our African grandparents knew it, because they didn't have none of that, and their houses was cleaner than anything going. So, and also baking soda is another one. Go ahead, Dana. Dana, come on, Dana.
151 Everclear and Moonshine.
But if you can get it though, they don't sell Everclear anymore. That's the problem.
They don't.
Just like 151 Bacardi, they don't sell it anymore. If you can find Everclear, listen to me, Everclear with a little essential oil. Get Everclear whiskey. It'll be a clear bottle of death. Or if you got somebody who's making moonshine, get the moonshine, but get essential oil, spearmint, lavender, sprinkle it in there, shake it up. You spray that down on a table, can't nothing stay in it. You cannot do it. Also,
it's like 100 proof vodka. You go get 100 proof vodka, that's your alcohol right there.
But the problem is, it's going to smell, it's going to have a strong alcohol smell. Everclear is not going to have that smell. It's actually, once you put a little of the essential oil in it, you're not going to have that smell, and it's powerful. So that, thank you, Dana. That's true. Everclear moonshine, if you can get it with a little essential oil, you can put it in little bottles and you can spray it, and guaranteed you will have nothing that is able to stay on anything, and it works. And it actually, if you can find it. So if you got some folks that are back up in the woods and they cooking some potatoes, tell them to bring you some moonshine. You good. Now, in certain places around the country, they still sell Everclear. The problem is if you can get them to mail it to you, that works. But it's very hard, because actually they were talking about it on one of the shows I was watching. The problem is a lot of liquor stores don't sell Everclear because people were getting sick and dying from drinking it. You can get it's tough. It's strong. Now, to my Jamaican brothers and sisters, Rand nephew will kill anything too, but you don't want to start splashing Rand nephew around the house. You don't want your house smelling like a bar. But definitely Everclear.
Get hot. They're like, Dad, what have you been drinking? I'm like, nothing.
I'm trying to tell you. But Everclear is a good one.
But they know it be clean.
That old 151 Bacardi, you get that rum smell. But 151 Bacardi is actually flammable. The only problem with Everclear and 151, do not wipe it anywhere near your stove. It is flammable. Do not put the bottle anywhere near your stove, anywhere a candle, because it is flammable. It will blow.
Wow.
It is flammable.
You won't have a house. Your house be burnt down.
Exactly. So there won't be no corona, won't be no house either. So you good. All right, guys. So listen, I will see y'all on Wednesday. And actually, again, if you have any topics that you want Tiff and I to cover, we got you. Have a great weekend. Be safe. I'll talk to you all soon.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
Good night, guys.
All right.